before we get started, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, I'm asking the people at the back in the technical tent, those who are not involved in the production, to please come to the front of the podium. Those at the back in the technical tent, please come to the front of the podium. Thank you. Good night. Thank you for coming out to our Barbados Labour Party Top Rock meeting. And tonight, as I welcome you to Christchurch, we're also looking at the people of Bath Village, St. Lawrence, Maxwell, Harmony. The Barbados Labour Party has come here tonight to speak to you and speak to the problems that we've been facing in this country for too long. We have an interesting lineup for you tonight, and I want to first introduce our first speaker, Mr. Edmund Hinkson. Of course, we've had a little bit of a late start, so we'll be adjusting our times to suit. And I won't spend too much in introduction, and please join with me in welcoming to the podium our first speaker, Mr. Edmund Hinkson. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Greetings to all the supporters and friends and well-wishers of the Barbados Labour Party, and to all Barbadians present here tonight. Our country is on the dawn of celebrating a new year, 2017. With every new year, we should come to have a renewal and a recommitment of the hopes and aspirations of our people, especially of our young people. The reality, however, in the Barbados of today is that after almost 9 years of DLP governance, hopelessness and despair are the hallmarks of the lives of a significant number of our constituents across the length and breadth of this country. This country, under the Democratic Labour Party, continues to move from one crisis to another crisis. At every week, a new crisis that is proven to be insoluble to the government of Barbados. Cabinet incompetence bestrews this country, whether it is in the Ministry of Housing, which has not built 25 new houses since this term of office, and those houses that have been completed under that minister, they can't get people in them, and he tells you he don't know why people not in the grotto. Whether it's the Ministry of Education under the worst minister ever out of the 13 that they've had, including an Anthony Wood I see out here was one of them. Whether it is the finance minister, easily the worst finance minister of all since independence. Whether it is the Minister of Agriculture who had said he was going to plow up Barbados from north to south, east to west, and everything, all sugar production down and many non-sugar production areas down as well. Whether it's the Minister of Social Welfare, people, elderly people, people with disabilities struggling to get their disability benefits and their NIS. When they do get it, it comes late. In a lot of cases, it has been cut. And led, of course, by the worst Prime Minister ever in the history of this country. The infrastructure and the physical development, the physical fabric of this country is breaking down after 2 terms of Democratic Labour Party rule. The economy, after 9 years, still can't get out of recession, growing at no more than 1% per annum in every single year that the Democratic Labour Party has been in office in this stint. And in fact, if you take into account the last 3 years between 1991 and 1994, when they were in office, the economy has not grown under the Democratic Labour Party by more than 1% in their last 12 years of governance. The economy right now of Barbados is smaller today than it was in 2007 when the Barbados Labour Party was in office. This government has not been able to get any projects growing whatsoever. And Professor Moore, an independent economist at Cave Hill with no axe to grind for the Barbados Labour Party, has carried out a study that has shown conclusively that over the last 40 years, whenever the Barbados Labour Party is in office, the economy has grown on average by 2% per annum more than it has grown under the Democratic Labour Party. I rest my case. Even the Dems tell you that the economy is run better by the Barbados Labour Party, and that's why they came up with this piece of rhetoric that Barbados is a society and not only an economy. We have had 35 new taxes in this country or increase in taxes, whether it is the VAT, whether it is the increase in the VAT, whether it is the social responsibility allowance or levy, whether it is the consolidation tax. 35 new taxes or increase in taxes. And the sole objective of a government raising taxes or levying taxes on its people is to provide for the people of a country, especially those who cannot provide for themselves, those who are disadvantaged, those young persons who are not working, the elderly, the senior citizens who have done their part in developing this country and making it what it is, people with disabilities. That is why you tax people, to help the less fortunate, those who need help. But yet what we have seen in this era where our taxes have increased and the tax take is burdensome to the majority of Barbadians, is that the welfare and social fabric of this society has withered away. We are now paying for education at university, something unheard of, something that for 50 plus years Barbadians had come to take for granted. We are now paying more for health services in this country. The two major planks of any society. The health of a nation is the wealth of the nation. And both parties before now had agreed that we will place education of our people at the front burner, so that those who are born in poverty, those who are born in villages, those children and grandchildren of sugar plantation laborers would have the opportunity to reach the top, just like any other child born into wealth. That has been undermined by this Democratic Labour Party government. This country right now is like a ship which has struck an iceberg and continues to sink with the captain jumping off, leaving the passengers to fend for themselves. A debate has now resurfaced within recent weeks on whether Barbados should seek the help of the International Monetary Fund. As the printing of money continues and the borrowing from the National Insurance Scheme, as in one of today's media newspapers, continues. The printing of money places the stability of the Barbados dollar under severe jeopardy. But this government doesn't seem to understand that. Ryan Straughn, who is running here in Christchurch, understands that. One of the best economists in Barbados, someone who must be walking up the stairs of Parliament after the next elections are over. How did we get to this stage? We got to this stage by the brunt of misguided DLP policies, of overtaxation of the people of this country, of a failure to facilitate business, of corruption in high places and spiritual wickedness in high places, and a failure of the government to do the small things that will make a difference in the lives of the people of this country. Water wars, I understand now that water wars have reached Christchurch. They have moved now, and they are still in the east of Barbados and the north of Barbados, and I understand that they've moved to Christchurch, and I'm sure that the Christchurch members of Parliament will speak to that tonight. But what is even more appalling has been the callousness of ministers of government on this particular issue, of the Minister of Water Resources especially, and of the Prime Minister especially. We have not heard one word, generally speaking, in French, English, Latin or Greek, which he loves, from the Prime Minister of Barbados, expressing empathy and sympathy with the people of Barbados, especially those in the east and north, who have for weeks and weeks been without consistent water for the last 18 months. The callousness of this government, their don't careish attitude to the people of Barbados, must be condemned in the highest form by your vote next election. Water is a basic human right. In fact, Slovenia, 2 months ago, made it a fundamental human right in their constitution, the right to water, the right to clean water. And we have gone back in Barbados where the village tank, the water tank, is the norm. in some parts of the east of Barbados, including St. Joseph, as it was 50 years ago on the advent of our independence. Down here in Christchurch, you have been beset by a storage problem over the last 3 weeks. And again, the callousness and the don't care attitude of government ministers bears out. You have not had adequate information on it. We have heard and seen about business places with sewage running through the business and them having to salvage what they can out of their business assets. We have had about people who live down the road in this area having to go through sewage to get home. We've heard about tourists in the hotels down this area booking out and putting on TripAdvisor, etc. What is going on? This is not the Barbados Labour Party has been doing that. Bad-mouthing Barbados, to use the words of one cabinet minister. We are not doing that. We bad-mouthing the Democratic Labour Party. We are patriotic Barbadians, but facts speak for themselves. And you in Christchurch, especially in this area, have not been given the benefit of having information as to what is the true case with this storage. We've had the NCC and drainage telling you one thing, but the representative from this area telling you another. And in the height of irresponsibility, we have had the de facto Deputy Prime Minister, who Marsha Carroll, who is here tonight, will take out next election, telling you that it is a non-issue. How can somebody who is the Deputy Prime Minister of Barbados and the Minister for Tourism tell you that it is a non-issue and the beach should not have been closed and play he's an NCC ranger taking up the closed beach stake? But this should be a criminal offense. But how can it be a non-issue when everybody in the area, residents and business people alike, telling you that it is severely affecting the quality of their life, their ability to earn money, and their ability to live? But that is the Democratic Labour Party right now for you. Public transportation, completely broken down. 80 buses, if so many, on the road right now, owned by the Transport Board. People in the bus stand waiting 5-6 hours to get a bus. You understand what that means in terms of productivity, in terms of children's ability to go to school? Not one word audible from the minister responsible for public transport or the Prime Minister. Solutions easy, you know. Solutions easy. The stakeholders in the private sector of the transport telling the government that they're willing to take up the slack by having buses go to the short routes, while the Transport Board can try as best as they can to service the long routes. But that is not happening. Public transport in chaos, something that is a fundamental part of the delivery of services and of people to work and to their homes and to the schools. Education in a complete mess in this country. A World Bank official, again with no axe to grind for anybody, no brief to hold for the Barbados Labour Party, telling us 3 months ago that the quality of education in Barbados has declined tremendously, and that there is an increasing number of children who are sitting CXCs for the first time, who are not able to get their certification so that they can leave school with something that they can carry to the table in the world of work or to gain higher education. The education minister trying to refute, but clearly not bringing any credible case. The IMF, the World Bank official, the World Bank have the facts. And this is the fact of the matter. And this, of course, coupled on the dismemberment by this Democratic Labour Party government of a major plank of that party's social policy.
Edmund Hinkson, give him another round of applause. He did a fantastic job leading off the baton tonight. You would appreciate that I have to keep the time tight because we started late, so please forgive me. But Edmund, thank you. All we have seen this Democratic Labour Party administration do over the last 8 years is crisis management. They wait till a problem reaches crisis proportions to then come and say they're going to try to fix the problem. Instead of using preventative measures and try to avoid problems from starting, they instead only come when the problem reaches crisis proportion. That is the only reason that my friend Richard Seeley found himself in the beach at Worthing, only because TripAdvisor had it all over about sewage in the beach at the water in Barbados. But if it wasn't on TripAdvisor, Richard wasn't going nowhere near there. I don't know how much antibiotics he took before, during, or after, just in case anything was there. But I would have liked to have seen my friend Richard Seeley, not in the ocean a few days after, but during when the water was brown. Or I would like to see him wading in the water that is coming out of the manholes in Hastings, when you can see the toilet paper rolling around in it. That is what I would like to see him do. But of course, he's not going to do that because it would be too much at risk at the time. But he will leave that for the people of Christchurch. But we are saying no to that because the Barbados Labour Party will not stand for anything like that. And that is why we are here to reassure the people of this community and all of Christchurch that the Barbados Labour Party will keep their feet to the fire till they get that problem fixed. Because it must be fixed, and it must be fixed urgently. Now, part of my job here tonight is to introduce the Christchurch team. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Wilfred Abrams. He will come and give you the highs and the lows about what is happening in this constituency, indeed what is happening in the country, and he will tell you about the guy called Low. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Wilfred Abrams.
Good night, everybody. I can't see you all that clearly because the light is right on me, but we will do what we have to do. I am Wilfred Abrams. I have the honor of representing Christchurch East for the next general election, whenever it is called. We've been lucky in Christchurch East for the most part. We've had some good, decent, hard-working representatives in the past. We've had Johnny Cheltenham, as he then was. We've had Reggie Farley. We've had some good, decent people. It hurts my heart. It hurts my heart that the hard-working people in Christchurch East, the decent, hard-working people, the fishermen, the fisherwomen, the farmers, the entrepreneurs, the business people, the hard-working, salt-of-the-earth people are now being subjected to this political nuisance who is now the representative for Christchurch East. The man is a political mosquito. He can't do much good, but he can do a lot of harm. There is nobody in the world whose name more aptly suits them. He could not have had a better name if he tried. Low. Low in name, low in nature, low in performance. You know, everybody else in the world, when you're born, you always try to do better for yourself. As you go through the world, you try to improve yourself. You try to achieve better and better things. Not this fella. He is content in mediocrity. And not just content in mediocrity, he wants to pull the constituency and the whole country down with him. This man has moved as a minister from one despicable act to the next one. Connect the dots. A lot of y'all have forgotten that at one time he was the minister responsible for water. This man who tries to clothe his sins in piety and claiming some divine connection to God. At one time, he was the minister responsible for water. That was when the reverse osmosis plant had gotten funding. The government of Barbados got approval for a reverse osmosis plant in the belt. Had that plant been put in then, a lot of the water contamination issues we have in the belt would have been a thing of the past. But this man, as the minister responsible for water, decided, no, that was not important enough. What was more important was to build a multi-million-dollar Barbados Water Authority headquarters. A lot of people have forgotten that he once was the minister responsible for water. But connect the dots. He was the minister, or is the minister, responsible for the Sanitation Service Authority. The Sanitation Service Authority, perhaps one of the most important governmental departments in Barbados. And he has presided over the decimation of the Sanitation Service Authority. All of you who have been following, we all know it takes 35 trucks to properly service Barbados. You know that. I know that. Even little Aaron, Cynthia's grandson, knows that. Why is it that the minister does not know that? Why is it that most days we are suffering with 12 to 15 trucks trying to service Barbados? Why is it that his incompetence as a minister is being tolerated by Frondel Stewart, where garbage is piling up all over Barbados? When we had that massive flood a couple days ago, if you watch the videos, garbage washing down the street, bags and bags of garbage floating down the street. All of you have been subjected to pileups of garbage. If you haven't had it at your own house, you have driven around and you have seen it happening. This is the minister who, responsible for the Sanitation Service Authority, imposed a tipping fee. We all said from the beginning, come on, it's common sense. If people could go and dump truckloads of garbage free at the appropriate place in Vaucluse, and you now charging them $40, $50 a ton, what do you think is going to happen? Well, they're not going to take it and pay $40 to drop it in Vaucluse when they could dump it in a gully for free. We told the man that. He said we were encouraging lawlessness in Barbados. It's not about lawlessness. It's about being practical. He was warned. But he went ahead with this. His sole plan, he went ahead with this. We had a problem last year and the year before with all the gullies and waterways chock-a-block with garbage. And that results in flooding. You know, up to now, those gullies and waterways have not even been properly cleaned yet. You know, I try to be fair. I try to find something redeemable in the man. But I'm having difficulties. Today is Sunday. I'm a good Christian fella. I don't want to say bad and not say some good. So the good is that he drives a real nice car. I would give you that one. But that's about it. He has the legacy of involving himself personally in all of the statutory corporations he's responsible for. The man likes to handpick who gets contracts, who does not get contracts. If you get a contract, how much money you get and when, and what the terms of that contract are. He is the minister who had a man from one of his statutory boards resign, who wrote the prime minister. This man was a dem, you know, and he wrote the prime minister saying he can no longer work with this minister. He is interfering too much and compromising the board. Did the prime minister move him? No, not at all. Look, but I tell you what I did. Low was the man who said a certain businessman in Barbados can't get a contract for Sanitation Service Authority. He could never even get a contract to pick up a dead dog. Y'all remember that? When the minister found himself in hospital, the first thing from the Stewart did, he didn't waste any time. He appointed another person to act as a minister, and they quickly gave away contracts to waste haulers, including the same man who could not pick up a dead dog for Low. Low picked himself up off of his hospital bed, checked himself out of hospital, went back to his ministry before he was supposed to go back. Y'all heard the Prime Minister say this was a 6-month program, or for as long as it takes. A couple of weeks later, out comes the minister And he said, no, that was a 2-week pilot project. So I now am going to decide who gets these contracts. He gave more time to somebody and less time to somebody else. We heard that these contracts were for $411 per hour. To pick up garbage for $411 per hour. I'm not good at mathematics, but I figure that at $411 per hour over the course of a year for 4 contractors, you're probably looking at about $5 million. I could be wrong, but it's up in the millions. Imagine how many garbage trucks the ministry could have bought for that money at $250,000 a truck. You want to talk about wastage? Then connect the dots. He was the man responsible for the NCC. Before the last election, Lowe took on record numbers of people just before the election and told the people of Barbados, if the Barbados Labour Party gets in, all of y'all are going to go home. The government got it, and then what happened? What was the first thing they did? Sent home thousands of people and a whole set of people from the NCC. You have hard-working people at the NCC who now have to be begging to get what was due to them after they have been terminated, wrongfully terminated. No, we are proud people. Bajans don't like to beg for money. It's hard enough to beg when it's not yours. If it is yours and you deserve it because somebody did you wrong, you legally are entitled to it, you should not have to beg for that. These people are still begging and still scrunching for their due entitlement, and I put that squarely at the feet of the minister. He knew what he was doing, and he put the NCC and the people in trouble for that, and he must be held responsible. Beautify Barbados, connect the dots. They came in and they cut Beautify Barbados, and they cut people from the drainage department responsible for debushing and clearing. You all know what happened in Barbados? If Columbus was to come back now to Barbados, he would recognize Barbados. Because Barbados is as overgrown as it was when Columbus first discovered us. And that is as a result of Lowe. The floodings that happened the other day, right? The floodings that happened the other day, that happened by accident. That was not as much rain as it was in Thomas, but it had more flooding. Barbados should not have had that amount of flooding for that amount of rain. And that is as a result of our drains being clogged, there being no proper drainage maintenance, there being no proper cleaning of wells, and those are squarely within his ministry. You remember JS used to have this thing on TV when they say, do this and do that before the high winds come? Everybody remembers that? Before the high winds come? So they're saying you have to be prepared. You can't look to be cleaning the drains in the middle of the rainy season. You have to clean them before and maintain them through the rainy season. You have to have a team on standby that if a well is blocked and is flooding, somebody can go and clear that well. There is nothing. This ministry is limping along. When they had the flooding, all of the 6-inch pumps that they used to pump off water when it's flooding, none of the 6-inch pumps were working. A couple of the 4- and 3-inch pumps were working, but most of the hoses were full of water. There is no maintenance going on in that department. Connect the dots. You remember Cahill? Over the last couple of years, while this minister should have been paying attention to what is happening in his ministry, he was more concerned himself about a $700 million waste-to-energy plant in St. Thomas that nobody in Barbados wanted. It was a bad idea from the beginning. It was a bad idea in the middle. He knew it was not going to get off the ground. The people in St. Thomas would never let that happen. The one time you've ever seen Barbados united on something, it was that waste-to-energy plant had to go. But that minister found himself acquiring land in Vaucluse to construct the headquarters for Cahill. Earned, incompetent government that we have ever had. They fail on the 3 C's. The only C that this government might end up being remembered for is corruption. Look, people keep telling me that there's no difference between politicians. I find that offensive. They say we're the same. I believe politics is about representation. You cannot avoid people and then claim to represent them. to represent people, you have to do what I have been doing and what the other members of the BLP have been doing. Get into the communities, rub shoulders with and talk to people, find out what their concerns are, and then decide as a group how best to address those. You cannot avoid people and then think you know what their problems are or what is of concern to them. I am not here to hide from anybody. I put myself forward as a representative because I am concerned about people, because I care about the people in Christchurch East, because I am competent to represent their interests. I have fought hard in the opposition in the Senate, and to be honest, I actually look forward to representing the people in government, because the work we do in the opposition, when it gets into government, it must be a lot easier. Look, this is our pledge to you. I pledge that we will listen to you and represent you fairly and transparently with integrity. I pledge to you that we will clean up Barbados and keep it clean. We will minimize the health and safety risks presented by all that bush and garbage. We will implement a sustained and sustainable waste management program in Barbados that works. We as a government will bring back transparency and accountability. Hear this clearly. If you didn't hear anything else, hear this. Under the next Barbados Labour Party government, there will be zero tolerance for corruption. This Barbados Labour Party government, led by Mayor Mottley, is ready. We are focused and we are united. So I stood here to prosecute the case, the people against Dennis Lowe and the rest of them. I have now presented my case. It is for y'all to judge. So, Mr. Chairman, the court of public opinion is now in session. The people versus Dennis Lowe and the members of the Democratic Labour Party government on the charges of neglect in the Ministry of Environment leading to the complete overgrowth of our communities and country. What say you, the people? Guilty or not guilty? On the charge of total and complete failure as a Minister of Drainage and responsibility for the disastrous flooding on November 29th. What say you? Guilty or not guilty? On the charge of victimizing the retrenched NCC workers and treating them in the most offhand and callous way. What say you? On the charge of presiding over the collapse of the Sanitation Service Authority. What say you? On the charge of being the worst minister in the worst government that this land, Barbados, has ever had. What say you? I can't hear you. One more time. Mr. Chairman, the people have returned the verdict of guilty on all counts. And the sentence must be, when the next election is called, the flogging, the public flogging with the election X. You all have to do this. You owe it to yourselves, your children, and your children's children. This government and these crippling ministers must go. Good night. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Wilfred Abrams. Give him a round of applause. He certainly successfully prosecuted. And you all returned the verdict and convicted. And of course, banished from government for many, many years hereafter. Just the other day, I was canvassing in the constituency of Christchurch West, just a few days ago actually, and I met a young lady who told me quite clearly she cannot understand what is happening at the Transport Board. She said that she sends her children to school, they get to school late because they can't get a bus. Then when they get out at 3 o'clock, they cannot get to home before 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock because they can't get a bus. The Transport Board is in an utter and total uproar, an absolute mess with only 80 buses. at a time when they have decided to bypass UCAL, which is the main mechanic shop, which kept 100 and something odd buses on the road for years, and instead send them to one of their pals up this side here. Why do that when obviously their pals cannot keep the buses on the road, and the people of Barbados are having to suffer because of it? Another problem, another crisis. What they need to do is either get the buses fixed, put UCAL back to work, and mind you, you know the old UCAL millions of dollars and have not paid them? Millions of dollars. They need to fund UCAL properly so they can get the material to fix the buses. Otherwise, you will have problems with people getting to work, people getting to school, people getting home, and that has a negative and direct impact on the productivity of this country. If you cannot get to work, you cannot produce. If the mason can't get to work, he can't build your house. If the plumber can't get to work, he can't put in the system for you. If the people working in the factory can't get to work, they cannot make the clothes or package the food or stock the shelves on the supermarket. It is a major and fundamental problem. And don't fool yourself, the vast majority of this country take the bus to get to work and get to school. And we need a properly functioning transport system for our people in this country. We need less of the frenzy thing and more work from the minister. Because that frenzy thing cannot continue if the people of this country are suffering. And that is why we are here tonight, to equally bring his feet to the fire, so that he understands that we will not sit idly by while the people are left to languish in the Fairchild Street bus stand. It cannot continue, and we will continue to keep pressure on them. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I bring another young man. We call him Medic in Christchurch. Those of you would know him as Adrian Forde, a pharmacist by profession. He is a man with a bright and fantastic future. I think his future is so bright he should be wearing shades. My good friend for many, many years, it gives me absolute pleasure and warms my heart to be able to introduce to you my friend Adrian Medic Forde.
Good night to all. Good night. Before you go, William, because a lot of persons may not know, but I can let the cat out the bag tonight. William is not only my friend, he is not only my comrade and colleague, but he's also my dentist. And a lot of you may not know, he is one of the persons responsible for me here tonight. Albeit, there was a 3-inch needle in my mouth when I acquiesced. But the people of Christchurch West have spoken decisively. They have spoken loudly. There was an extraction in true dental parlance, and now there is a permanent dental implant in the name of Dr. William Duguid. And the good book tells us, do good, and good will follow you. If this government was doing good, the people in this country would not be faced with the economic and social morass that we face today. If this government was doing good, like Dr. William Duguid, we would not be faced with a sordid mess in terms of the sewage situation right there in Graham Hall. And if this government was doing good, the young persons in this country would not be facing the hopelessness that they face today. Since 2008, and I reflect on the words of the Scottish novelist, the great man Sir Walter Scott, when he says, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave, when at first we practice to deceive." This government in 2008 came to the people with a premise that there would never lie, steal, or cheat. Oh, they say that a day in politics is a long time, but 9 years is an eternity. And 9 years is a too long a time for the Democratic Labour Party. But they say that they will never lie. But you know the book of John 8 verses 44 tells us the devil is a liar. The youngsters like nigga and those guys will say, Rick Ross will tell you the same thing too. The devil is a liar because they said they will never lie. They will never stay home. Not one single worker in Barbados. We have 3,500 have gone home so far. The devil is a liar. They said that they will never cause Barbadians, especially the young people and the ones in Christchurch who are sexual, to pay for university education. Look what is happening. Only the Joneses can get to university now. Only the ones who can afford it can get to university. So what you have created now, ladies and gentlemen, is an intelligent criminal because they cannot aspire to go to university anymore. They say that they will never, ever in this country increase taxes. They will manage the country with even kill and with economic prudence. Ladies and gentlemen, every time you look at the papers, you hear a Moody rated agency telling us that our standards are poor. That is what happened in this country as they stand. And don't talk about the cheating part. Because they claim they will never commit the cardinal sins of politics. They will never cheat either. Look at the Auditor General report. Lo and behold, there is cheating there all over this government. And when you're talking about stealing, our good friend, Mike Conrad, Reverend Adrian, will tell you that there's a lot of idiosyncrasies going on with the electoral list. But he will speak on that on a different matter. What I'm saying today, ladies and gentlemen, is that this government have not only destroyed the people of this country, they have found a new, innovative, creative way to kill the dead in this country. They have also killed the unborn child too, a bunch of abortionists, political abortionists. We called the Democratic Labour Party. And ladies and gentlemen, it's time to tell them they have to go. We are not tolerating this type of governments anymore in this country. You have a situation where the young people, especially the ones in Christchurch, West Central, because they can tell you, due to my canvassing, there have to be about a 30% unemployment in Christchurch, West Central as they speak. But when the representative come around, I want you to remind him in the words of Jeanette Jackson. When she says, you all know what she says too. Tell me. What have you done for me lately? That's what you need to tell him. The invisible man who only appears and reappears when election call. That is what you need to tell him. Nothing has been done for the young people in Christchurch West Central and Christchurch at large. And I say so without apology. Nothing for the young people in terms of development. That is why I have come to political life. Because I understand what it is to help develop the young people in this country. I understand what it is for a government to give the young people the opportunity to develop their talents, to develop their skills, to be innovative so they can be craftsmen of their fate. That is what I understand, and that's what the Barbados Labour Party understands. That is what Kerrie here understands as a young man in this party. That is what Marshall understands. That is what Dr. Sonia Brown understands. John King understands. Ralph Thorne understands. Ryan Straughn understands. Help my dear man. Neil Raw understands, and that is why we have come to public life. Not to put our hands in the public largesse, not to steal, not to lie, and not to cheat. That is why we have come to public life, to help the young people in this country in a tangible way. But I must be reminded of the words of the former British Prime Minister, a man called Benjamin Disraeli, who says that almost everything great in this world has been created by young people. That is why I have championed their cause. Almost everything great in this world has been created by young people. And that is why we in this Barbados Labour Party have given the young people an opportunity to grow, develop, and that is why we have given them the opportunity That is why you have men like Clive Maskell in this Barbados Labour Party, ladies and gentlemen. That is why you have these people. That is why we have come to public life, to help those who are less fortunate, to help the marginalized, to be the voice for the voiceless. But I have seen it with my own, and I have seen greatness from the young people in this country. The WE program that I have conceptualized 6 or 8 years ago in the constituency of Christchurch West Central, when Benjamin Disraeli tells you that everything, almost everything great has been achieved by young people, it is no lie. The WE program, work, empowerment, and entrepreneurship, has been responsible for meditating in the constituency of Christchurch West Central. And Blaine and Paris, I am telling you tonight, you have done something great. You are a great achievement in the constituency. I may come down a little further. Don't mind the rain. Don't mind the showers of blessing. When they come down a little further and you get to Pierre fruit stalls, Pierre, you have done something great in this constituency. And you come a little further down and you get Raphael's barbershop. Raphael, you have done something great. I don't need an umbrella, William. I can take the rain for the people of this constituency and Christchurch. When you come down further, there was a block called the Wrong Turn. Now, it can be renamed the Right Turn, because in the next couple of weeks, there is a shop that the youngsters have built using the resources that we have provided for them as a community, named the House of Deals, owned and managed by the fellas on the block. Thanks to Rough House and all the fellas. You have done something great. You have done something great. And that is what this Barbados Labour Party have stand for. That is what we are all about, giving you the wherewithal to achieve your goals. And you get a little further down, Phil Morty, I forget he. But Welsh's maintenance lawnmower, and thanks to Ralph, they have done something great, because they have a business that is putting disposable income in this country. And that is something great. Then you look further down and you get the guys who are on the coast as I talk, selling the indigenous products. The tourists, they are selling conch shells and chains on everything made from local products. They are doing something great for this country, called to bring in foreign exchange. And Dr. Maskell will tell you the importance of foreign exchange. They have done something great. So when the former Prime Minister of Britain tells you that young people are responsible for most of the greatness in this country, he is not telling no lie. But this Barbados Labour Party have been the champion for young people from the time Adam was a lamb. This septuagenarian of a party called the Barbados Labour Party has been a champion for the young people in this country, and I say so without apology. I can draw a philosophical line in the sand. God forbid you can't do it at wording, because you may catch E. coli, salmonella, or Shigella. Don't mind the minister jumping in the water. I want you to, next time they got a heavy downpour, to jump in, do it better. The eating is in the pudding, in tasting it. I want you to jump in the swamp. No, he may take a walk on the road, but he may get spat up, because we don't know, most Barbadians think he talking. He may get spat up with the effluent. I will be decent today. But I am going to tell you briefly what the Barbados Labour Party stands for in terms of youth and youth development. I ain't going to take. And thanks Cindy again, because she has been very helpful to me in getting this information. Project OASS, anybody remember that? Project OASS targeting the youth on the blocks, giving them the empowerment so that they can execute their talents. Ladies and gentlemen, a great success of moving persons off the block and into work. Entrepreneurship at its best. The Barbados Labour Party, because we believe that the young people are great and they can achieve greatness. That's why we do it. The YES program, which is Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme. Young persons were trained in digital media, Cindy. They were trained in cosmetology, bartending, hospitality. That is what the program was geared towards, and it was successful. Ladies and gentlemen, the YAR program, there's the Youth Achieving Results program, the EduTech program, championed by none other than our political leader, Mayor Mottley. I quite often refer her as a political doyen. Today I go further. I will use the words of the hit song from Tina Turner, "She's Simply the Best." Youth and youth expansion at grades of the youth service in 1994, championed by Mayor Mottley. The ninth wonder of the world too, don't forget. Providing subventions for the Eddie Nichols School and the persons who are at the Learning Center, all under the auspices of the Barbados Labour Party. Continuing education program at Leicester Vaughan, again under the stewardship of the Barbados Labour Party. The enterprise drew a fund so that young persons can access funds to start out their businesses, again under the Barbados Labour Party. The introduction of nursery education, Cindy, again, a project started by the Barbados Labour Party. To make a long story short, ladies and gentlemen, the Barbados Labour Party has always championed the cause for the young, the underprivileged, the voiceless in this country. And every time, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sorry that I have to say so, every single time that there is a problem in Christchurch, West Central, the representative pulled the disappearing act. I call him the invisible man, because he knows how to appear and reappear. But ladies and gentlemen, in my short summary of this individual, I can only tell you one thing. You know what I tell you? That this gentleman, okay, have a history. He is cultured at making sport at the youth. Oh, he is cultured. He has a culture for making sport at the youth. It's a sad state of affairs. But ladies and gentlemen, every time that there is a problem in Barbados, the dams come with a noun, and it like a drop out the stratosphere, something like a chicken licking episode. On the people of Barbados, the latest is morality. But you know what is morality? Herbert Humphrey, and he may be family to you, Kurt, the former vice president of America, tell you morality is how you treat the most vulnerable in society. And I can bring a quote because I have to wrap up, right? I can bring a quote. Herbert Humphrey said, the moral test of any government is how it treats those in the dawn of their life, the children. How this government have treated the children in this country. That's the moral test. And you can answer the question. How they have treated those in the twilight of their lives, the elderly. Miss Joseph, you can tell me when you go to the hospital, you can't get your medication. All the social services that you used to get before, you can't access now. So you can tell us about the elderly, how the Democratic Labour Party has treated the elderly in this country, and how they have treated those in the shadows of their life, the sick, the needy, and the disabled. Where is Gravel? He can tell you how he, as a disabled person, find it difficult to travel in Barbados as he speaks. Those who are using wheelchair, the buses that are retrofitted right now, they are down. So you can understand the problems that the disabled have. So when you're talking morality, the litmus test is how you treat the most vulnerable in this society. And the Democratic Labour Party have failed that litmus test. So when they talk about morality, they have to wheel in the young people terms and come again. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, we have a potpourri of young, talents. We have, as I said, Kirk and all the guys. I'm sorry if I forget any names. We have tested persons in this party, like Dylan Marshall, George Payne, and you can call out Dr. Jerome Walker, Dr. Klein Master. We can call out the names. We have a tried, tested, and proven government who know how to run the affairs of this country because we have done it time and time again. Ladies and gentlemen, we are prepared to work with you. We understand how to satisfy your basic needs. And that is important. Nowadays, persons can't even get the basic needs satisfied, which is water. And you know that after we celebrate the $8 million in golden years, not a golden drop of water for persons in rural St. Andrew and the rest of places. The only you would do better searching for gold in their places than a drop of water. And we spent $10 million to celebrate a golden anniversary. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring it home because I don't want to disrespect my chair and the body. It is time for me to go. But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I leave you today in the words of Jimmy Cliff. When he tells you, give the Barbados Labour Party a chance because better days are coming by and by.
Give him a round of applause. Adrian Medic Forde, the next Member of Parliament for Christchurch West Central. You think I made a good choice in Adrian Medic Forde? You can give him a chance. Give him a chance when I do. I came to rectify. I came to rectify a mistake I made with another choice. You know, when we try to bring people to public life, we bring people that we think could win the seat, but we also bring people that we think could work the constituency. Sadly, I made a mistake in the past, which I have come back to rectify in Christchurch West. Because now we don't only have people who can win the seat, but can work the constituency. And that is what we're going to do in Christchurch West. And similarly, my good friend Adrian Medic Forde has proven to you that not only is he going to walk the walk and talk the talk, but he's going to be there for the people of Christchurch West Central. He will not only win the seat, but he will work the constituency and keep close to the people. Too many of them come and don't keep close to the people and then suffer, as he called it, an extraction. But we are going to fix that in Christchurch West. Indeed, we are going to fix that in all of Christchurch because we have come to service and to serve the people of Christchurch, and we will do it tooth and nail, night and day, every day, till that date is called. And when we are elected and return to government, we will make it our business to fix all of the wrongs, all of the neglect, all of the destruction, all of the don't care-ish attitude, all of the mismanagement that they have perpetrated on this country. All of that must come to an end, and it will come to an end the day after the next election. That is our solemn promise to you, because we are here to give the people of Barbados hope that we can do better. The Barbados Labour Party will do better, and Barbados as a whole must do better. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I bring to you another young man, an economist of international proportions, a man who could work in economics anywhere in the world, who is able to formulate policies and programs to improve this country and to work with the rest of our economic team to improve everything that has been done wrong by the Democratic Labour Party. Ladies and gentlemen, the man who will unseat Jones in Christchurch East, Ryan Straughn.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Why are we here tonight, of all nights in December? It is a question that each and every one of us must truly ask ourselves going forward, and certainly over the next few months of serious serious, serious question. Now, many of you have come here tonight from all directions. But about 3 days ago, I approached this very spot from around the corner. And when I passed the police station, I got a scent out of this world, ladies and gentlemen. And there wasn't nothing sweet about it. Today is Sunday. It's the Lord's Day. So I can't say to you what I would really like to say, and this is really a family program in of itself. But ladies and gentlemen, I opened my paper Friday. And I want you to listen to me very, very, very carefully. Very carefully. I saw the biggest ball of sugar, honey, iced tea I have ever seen in my life in the paper on Friday. And why I say that to you, and let me repeat it, because as I said, it is Sunday, and I cannot say what I would truly like to say here this evening. Sugar, honey, iced tea. How is it that you have that flowing in the streets of Barbados, and this government, I can't even, they're not even a government. These fellas, that's what they are, fellas. Wild boys, to put it right. Will not even come and address the people of Barbados. The businesses in Barbados around the corner here. Some sense of relief from the sugar honey iced tea that is going on in Barbados. So you ask ourselves, why are we here tonight? And it's because, ladies and gentlemen, it is more than sewage. It is more than the fact that we can't get the garbage collected when the week comes in a decent time frame. It is more than the fact that you can't get home in a timely manner after a long, hard day's work. The people in rural Barbados, ladies and gentlemen, and it's getting further and further south, because in my constituency of Christchurch East Central, the water woes have started to take hold, I should say, in that constituency. So these fellas, these wild boys, they don't care. They're completely incompetent, and they're corrupt. And when you have those three things, ladies and gentlemen, wound up all in one, all you get is sugar, honey, iced tea. Because, ladies and gentlemen, each and every one of you, over the next 12 months or so, have to get out there and wipe this stain from across the land of Barbados. These fellas, quite frankly, they're the worst set of people ever to be entrusted with the faith of governing any country, any part of the world. And I am ashamed to have to say that after 50 years of independence, ladies and gentlemen. And to make it worse, they're trying to hold up on Barrack coattail. Why? Because they have absolutely no record on which to run and bring to the people and say, this is what I have done to improve your lives over the last 9 years. After 9 years, any government should be able to come and tell you that this is the type of progress that you have seen as a country. I want each and every one of you to think back to 2006, as we were heading into the World Cup just 10 years ago. Who didn't feel that we could do anything? It's not a perfect country, but we knew that we could do anything 10 years ago, Because once we put our minds to it and we get people involved, we know what we will deliver. But you look around Barbados today, there's a complete loss of hope, loss of faith, loss of trust. And why is that? Why is that? Because we have a bunch of fellas who have no compassion. They don't care about anybody but themselves. They're totally incompetent. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am a member of the Barbados Labour Party, and I am proud to say to you tonight that it is time that each and every one of us dig deep. Because I want to make a fundamental point here to you tonight. Because Barbados has developed under the Barbados Labour Party, and we have rescued Barbados time and time and time again. And I'm here to say to you tonight that Miss Mottley, our political leader, is the reason why I am here standing in front of you tonight to address you. Because I never saw myself as a politician or getting involved in elective politics. But I had to think long and hard and ask myself a serious question. Because as many of you know, I am an economist. And that question was, do I want to be right or do I want to do right? Because it's easy to sit on the side and say, well, this is going to happen if you do X, Y, Z. But as you look on and you realize that nobody's paying attention, the people that are in charge of your country is not listening to you, they ain't listening to me, they ain't care about you, your family, they ain't care about mine, they're not listening to anybody in this country. And you ask yourselves, why have we allowed this thing to happen? So I said, I must stand for something. And I believe that Barbados is worth fighting for, and the Barbados Labour Party will do all in its power with the team that Miss Mottley has assembled to rescue Barbados once again. And I say to all Barbadians, it is not just about us winning the next government. Each and every one of you, we will hold your hands as we get out of this hole, this cesspool that this cesspool that the Democratic Labour Party has created for Barbados. And it's a hard thing to have to say about your country. It really is. Because the investments that we have made in young people, especially like myself, Marsha, Kirk, these are the people now who will stand with you and your family, your friends, to rescue Barbados once again. Now, as an economist, I read a lot. I watch people, I watch businesses, because it is the interrelation of these things that creates the kind of confidence for us to go and manage our affairs, whether personally or business-wise. And so I want to make sure that each and every one of you understand that the purpose of politics is to make sure that the lives of the people are improved through the policies that you pursue, and you must do whatever it takes to make sure that the services that people expect through when they pay their taxes are delivered. And so when the Barbados Labour Party wins the next government, I am confident, ladies and gentlemen, that this Barbados Labour Party will never introduce the kind of taxation that has been unleashed on Barbadians over the past 9 years. because our focus is to make sure that you and your families can earn a decent living, improve your lot in life, because that is consistent with our motto, a better life for our people. And if every day when we go to work, whether it's at the House Assembly or any ministry across Barbados, we must lead. We will lead. We, the Barbados Labour Party, has been called from 1976, after Mr. Barrow first administration, again in 1994, to rescue Barbados. And with your help, ladies and gentlemen, with the team that we have assembled, we will not just only turn this economy around, but Barbados will once again be seen as the gem of the Caribbean. It is disgraceful that Barbados is the only country in the Caribbean that is not growing. These fellas still talking about the international recession. They're still talking about when the last Barbados Labour Party government was in office. And after 9 years, ladies and gentlemen, I ask you, when will they take responsibility for their own policies that have failed the people of Barbados? And the time, ladies and gentlemen, to spread the word is now. We simply cannot put up with any more of the incompetence, the lack of caring, nor the corruption that has taken root under Straughn and his band of merry men. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say to you that I am confident that the good people of Christchurch East Central will make the best choice and the right choice at the next election. I will do whatever I can to help the rest of my colleagues within the Barbados Labour Party win the next election, because the future of Barbados depends on us and you working together to rescue Barbados. Thank you. Good night.
Very good, very good, very good. Give him another round of applause. Mr. Ryan Straughn, we're keeping good time. And you notice how disciplined my team is. You notice how they're keeping to time. You notice that they're doing, when the chairman says it's time to come off, they're wrapping up and coming off. Because we are a disciplined team, and we will make a disciplined government, because it starts here and it will continue on when we are in government. Ladies and gentlemen, if I told you that Barbados is the 4th most indebted country in the world, you would say, no, that can't be true. Worse, the 4th most indebted country in the whole wide world. That is why they have no money to fix the drains, because all of the money is going to pay back debt. The first year in 2008, they borrowed $1.5 billion. The next year, $1 billion. The year after that, $800 million. The year after that, another $1 billion. When the elections was coming, $1.5 billion again. So they doubled the debt in 8 years, and now the majority of your taxes just go to pay back debt. To the man who is going to be representing this constituency, Christchurch South, whenever the next election is called, he's going to put boys out to pasture. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming my good friend and colleague, Ralph Thorne.
Good night. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I walked on the platform, I saw a very bright moon. And I saw some very bright and happy faces. I saw the bright and happy faces of the Barbados Labour Party and its supporters. And in the midst of storm, I wonder why we are so happy. My message may not be a happy message tonight, except that at the end of my short speech, I will promise you the happiness of change in this country. Change of this government that afflicts the lives of the ordinary people and the not so ordinary people in this country. But let me begin this way. For as long as I come to a platform in this constituency of Christchurch South, I ask you to remind me to pay tribute to the Honorable Sir Harold Bernard St. John, who represented this constituency in the Parliament of Barbados and across the Caribbean and across Europe and the United States of America, and did so with pride and showed and demonstrated that this constituency can produce excellence in representation. Tonight, wherever the spirit of Sir Harold St. John resides, we say thank you and we pay tribute to you. We come to you, and when I say we, I mean the Barbados Labour Party. We come to you, the people of Christchurch South and the people of Christchurch and the people of Barbados, at a time where the physical infrastructure of the country we love so much is in decay. We are standing up the street from Worthing, and we in Christchurch and we in Christchurch South now know what is physical decay. Don't let them tell us that we are lying. We know the truth. That was not my fault. We come to you at a time not only of physical decay, but we come to you at a time when the human infrastructure in government is displaying moral decay. We come to you at a time when your representative speaks on behalf of a party that displays gross incompetence in government, laziness. And if that were all, perhaps you would forgive them. But I know that you know that there's an awful stench of corruption flowing through the corridors, not only of this country, but of this constituency. And the time for change will come. Be patient, it will come. Your representative, and let me pause and say this. I have called the name Sir Harold St. John here tonight. I will not call the name of the current representative here tonight and do disservice to that. But he has absented himself from your problems. He finds that the seat at the bar at Durant's Golf Club is a more desirable place than to immerse himself among you, the people of Christchurch South, and to hear your problems. That is the quality of representation that he's brought to you. And I understand that over the past few weeks, he has sent two strange objects knocking on your doors, one called Patrick Gollop, and the other one, I don't know his name, and he doesn't say who he is. But he is now representing you by agency. He has two agents out there telling you to vote for him next time. You know better, and we know better. I will say this briefly for my own stewardship. About a year ago, I was nominated to be the candidate for this constituency. And one of the first things I did, I went among the constituents and I sought to identify certain pressing needs that people have. All is not well in this country. All is not well in this constituency. We have the rich and we have the not so rich. But as long as we have problems among poor people, we have one large problem. And I went among the not so rich, and I went among poor people in this constituency, and I identified needs that they have. And I have tried in my own way, without being boastful, to meet some of those needs by certain social programs. I will have time to spell them out, not tonight. But in pursuing those social programs, I have identified two things. One, let the fire truck pass, please. In pursuing those programs, I have identified two things. One, that a need exists for social programs in this constituency. And the other thing I have identified is the neglect of the representative, the current representative for this constituency. I have come into a vacuum of political and social activity. That political activity, that vacuum created by the absence of your current representative, that is what I've come to. And we must fill it, and we must change it. You know, they say that the people of Worthing were wrong. They tell the people of Worthing that what they saw in the middle of the road was not what they saw and smelled. But beyond the Accounts Committee, that brings me to my topic tonight, Mr. Chairman, and you have to give me a little time. A little time. I come tonight to speak to you on the topic power, law, and the abuse of Parliament. And I want to put the case for the Public Accounts Committee tonight. You would have heard over the past few days this controversy that has now been created, in which the government is seeking to question the power and the authority of the Public Accounts Committee, simply because the chairman of that committee is the esteemed leader of this party. They seek to call into question the authority of that body. It is a body set up by law. It is not Mayor Mottley's body. The Public Accounts Committee of this country is that body set up within Parliament that seeks to oversee the public accounts of this country. Don't let the long words fool you. Government's money and government spending must be subject to the scrutiny of the people of this country. It is your money. The money does not belong to Stuart, nor the members of the government. It is your money. And when your money is being spent, Parliament sets up a body called the Public Accounts Committee that acts as a watchdog to ensure that your monies are spent in a manner that the law says they ought to be spent. The Public Accounts Committee has existed in this country for years and years, and no one has ever questioned its authority. You have a Public Accounts Committee in the Parliament of Britain for centuries. No one has ever challenged its authority. You have committees of similar nature in parliaments throughout the Commonwealth, India, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and even in the United States of America. If you fail to attend a Senate committee hearing, you can be arrested by the Sergeant at Arms in the Congress of the United States. It is as serious as that. And it is as serious as that because the people's money is sacred. The money does not belong to the government. It is your money. They are the trustees for your money. And that is why the Public Accounts Committee must be respected. You would have seen in Barbados today an article by a team of lawyers They say that they represent the 3 persons who were summoned to appear before the committee. Now, those 3 persons were not chosen arbitrarily. You choose the Minister of Finance because all monies come through the Ministry of Finance. You choose the Minister of Housing because the Minister of Housing is responsible for the project. And you choose both ministers respectively in the persons of Lashley and Kelman. And Kelman, by the way, is the most intelligent man in the DLP. And you would have seen some kind of a letter or public statement issued on behalf of these persons who claim that they don't want to appear before that committee. You would have read it in Barbados today. Well, I say to you in Christchurch South, you would have seen the sewage in Worthing. I say to you in Barbados that the statement issued on behalf of those ministers is legal sewage that is flowing into the halls of Parliament in this country. It is absolute pseudo-legalistic nonsense. Let us get back to the law. The Auditor General of this country has a legal mandate to report to Parliament on the functionings, on spending as he sees it. Public monies, he reports to Parliament on that, and you would have seen over the last few months and years how he has been reporting as to this government's conduct in relation to public spending in this country. Must there be no recourse to Christchurch South? Must we sit and read a report of the Auditor General and find ourselves unable to do anything about government misspending in this country? That is why the Public Accounts Committee is there, as a watchdog over government's mishandling of public spending in this country. Allied to the efforts of the Auditor General is the Public Accounts Committee. When the Auditor General reports to Parliament, and he reports as to infelicities, as to wrongdoing or suspected wrongdoing, the Public Accounts Committee has a public responsibility as a trustee of the people's interests to make an examination of spending of your monies. That is all they're doing. And in the discharge of that function, Ms. Mayor Mottley decided, correctly so, to pursue an examination of government spending. How much time I have?
3.
I didn't bring my glasses. This is 30 minutes. He says 3. I told somebody that after 18 minutes of my speech, my first bead of perspiration comes down. I ain't sweating yet. I want to sweat, Mr. Chairman. 3 minutes to sweat, he says. I can shorten it. I can take the three minutes. I can take them. I'm an obedient son. The PAC has the authority to summon witnesses in the persons of the Ministers of Finance and Housing. They are summoned by the PAC. They're summoned by a document signed by Ms. Mayor Mottley, lawfully and legitimately, so she has that power. And they are called not as accused persons. They are called as witnesses. She has that power under the law so to do. I ask you tonight, Christchurch South, what objection could an honest man have to being summoned merely as a witness, to be questioned by a Public Accounts Committee? Why you run for a lawyer? Why run for a team of lawyers to write a lot of legal sewage in defiance of what the law in Barbados mandates? That the Public Accounts Committee is legitimately the watchdog over your monies, the public finances of this country. Instead of honoring the law, they are resorting to power. You see, a lot of people, when they don't have the law on their side, sometime in the middle of the night, they remember, look, I have the power. The law may be on your side, but tonight, ladies and gentlemen, power is on the side of the Democratic Labour Party. And if Ms. Mottley decides to pursue it further, or if she decides not to pursue it further, we want to remind the government that greater power lies in the hands here tonight. Greater power lies in the hands of Christchurch South and all of Barbados, and the time is coming, and that time is coming quickly. How much more time I have, Chairman? My God. If these people called the government decide that they are not going before people of Barbados to deem them with who are using power to suppress law in this country, and we have the ultimate power to remove them when the time comes, and that time is coming soon. They may not feel that they're answerable to the PAC tonight, but they're answerable to you. Mr. Duguid is mounting the platform. This is the shortest speech I've ever made, but enjoy the rest of the meeting. Good night, and God bless you. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next Member of Parliament for Christchurch South, Mr. Ralph Thorne. Thank you very much for Ralph. Thank you very much for showing discipline to the people as we continue to keep it tight. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to invite you to watch a short video that will be featured my friend Kerrie Symmonds. Cue the video, people.
You might want to take a look at some of the garbage that they've left along the beach, too. I mean, it's been spread out now, but it was just completely full right here.
But going back to what I was saying, this sign was put up today. And if you go on the international thing, TripAdvisor, and you see the comments being made about Barbados, you get the distinct impression that this is a plurality of beaches in Barbados. So the whole country starts to get a very negative image and reputation on the eve of the major tourist season. And that's something that we can do without. The need for the damage control is obvious, but nothing is happening. And that's something that has to be corrected. So there's a serious disappointment and a letdown on the part of the officials. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. These are showers of blessing. Do not let that offset you. I want to say to you tonight that we should be conscious of the season that we are in. Let me begin by wishing all of you a Merry Christmas. And as best as is possible with this government, I know it will be hard, but I want you to try to have a happy and prosperous New Year. I want, ladies and gentlemen, to speak to you tonight as one Barbadian to another. I do not have the privilege of holding any other passport for any other part of the world. I was born right here. Like most of you, this is where my navel string is buried. I do not, like most of you, own any property anywhere else in the world. Like most of you, I do not hold any bank accounts elsewhere in the world. And therefore, like most of you, this little rock of 166 square miles is where I call home. And it is where you call home, with no alternatives. And in a real sense, therefore, we are in this together. When something stands for the negative of Barbados, it works to the negative of Kerrie Symmonds. And it works to the negative of most of you. And likewise, if something is good for Barbados, then my friends, it is good for you too. Not true? Really, I got you sleepy. Not true? But that's better. And I feel that that is a philosophy that has caused me to live in public life by the guiding directive that what I do in public life, a decision made in public life, a position taken in Parliament, when I was in Cabinet, you're thinking first and foremost about what is good for Barbados. Not what is good for me, the individual, or for a part of the country, but what is the overall best interest of this place where I'm born. And I feel, ladies and gentlemen, that the first thing I must say to you tonight is that I treasure the fact, and let me say it again, I treasure the fact that there is a philosophy of that nature shared by Mayor Amor Mottley as leader of the Barbados Labour Party, shared by William Duguid and every other member of this party who is a candidate serving the interests of the people of Barbados, that we are putting Barbados first. And I feel that I can treasure that fact, because what this is about is not spitting in the soup after you get your own, or hawking in the bowl of porridge after you dip out what you want. This is about doing what you can for the betterment of the country as a whole. And I want to say tonight, because there are certain dishonest people in newsrooms controlled by the Democratic Labour Party in this country, who will not say it to you, so I have to say it from this platform, that Mayor Mottley deserves the world of credit for the statesman-like way in which she discharged her responsibilities with respect to this disgrace that took place at Worthing Beach. Raw sewage leaking into the environment. And last October, Mayor Mottley made it clear at a political branch meeting of the Barbados Labour Party in Adrian Forde's constituency. He's right there. Is that not true, Adrian? That this was an issue that Forde Straughn needed to pay attention to. She didn't go overboard and excoriate the government or try to embarrass and drag down the administration because she had a little information. She urged the government and urged the Prime Minister, take stock of a situation that I am alerting you to, Prime Minister. Check behind your ministers, particularly John Boyce, who would spend every day at a golf course if he could, and make sure that what they are supposed to be doing, Dennis Lowe and John Boyce in particular, they are doing. When Mayor Mottley took that position at a branch meeting, and that's why I said to you, I want the people in the newsrooms to understand that we are Barbadians first and foremost. Not all have that problem, but there are some who feel that you subordinate your conscience for a mess of pottage. You can give me a little lunch or a trip to Tobago at carnival time, right? And I was shut and turn a blind eye and write about something else in the paper when the time comes. But there is a Barbados that must be there when we go along. And it was here when we came along. And we have a duty as Barbadians to leave it better than we found it, man. What are you telling me, people? And when Mayor Mottley alerted Forde Straughn, he did what Forde Straughn does best. Sweet nothing. And then, instead of making sure that you pay a little attention to a dysfunctional sewage treatment plant. Instead of making sure that you pay attention to getting the resources that you need to solve a problem that has been running on for a while. Good God, from the short does nothing. And we have the end result being Barbados disgraced internationally. Now I want to say something to you because I just pulled up my phone and I heard William tonight talk about TripAdvisor. And I want you to understand TripAdvisor is a global tourism rating website. If you are going somewhere in the world that you never went before and you want to get an impression of the hotel rooms or the place that you're going to stay, you go on TripAdvisor and see what the people went before you had to say about the place. Barbados's, and this is what you're going to understand, Barbados's tourism budget through the government side is about $100 million every year. Every year. But beyond that $100 million, these little hotels around here, Coral Mist, Bougainvillea up the road, Accra, Yellowbird round the corner there, Savannah, I ain't gonna advertise them about this property. Many of them owned by Barbadians. And they put about $40 to $50 million in advertising collectively behind this country so as to alert people about the Barbados tourism product, invite people to participate in the Barbados tourism product, and to take a share. And ladies and gentlemen, when you have the leakage of raw sewage into the sea, that $140 to $50 million in advertising that I don't know, drop off in the body lime tree, that is blood, sweat, and tears. People's hard-earned money. And you can't find a way to undo the damage of the negative press that has happened on TripAdvisor. The squandering of over $140 million in advertising money. Because Francis Straughn chooses to do nothing. And I hold in my hand an extract from TripAdvisor. A fellow named Dave who comes from Thunder Bay, Canada. I want you to go home tonight and Google it. Go and read it. See it for yourself. And he says, reading about this situation definitely doesn't make coming to Barbados for New Year's very appealing. I will be traveling with a toddler, and the health risks seem to be mounting. I am wondering if another island isn't in our best interest. You understand the kind of damage that is being done? You understand what the neglect of Francis Straughn does in dollars and cents terms for the people who are working in these hotels, for the people who have invested in these properties? You understand it? A lady called Lynn from Canada. Some of those hotels might as well shut down. I can't see how it could be appetizing to sit and eat and drink by that mess. That is what people are saying about a hotel product, a tourism product that we worked hard for years to build. Now, you could do a number of things. You could decide that Francis Straughn did nothing because Francis Straughn is incompetent. You could decide that Francis Straughn did nothing because he is politically impotent and he can't risk offending Dennis Law or John Boyce because it will shift the balance of power in the cabinet. You will end up with David Eswick as Prime Minister. It would not be Donville because the only body who supports Donville is Donville. Or you could decide that Francis Straughn did nothing because Francis Straughn is indifferent. I really don't care where you fall on deciding because I know in my heart that all three are true. He is impotent, indifferent, and incompetent. But the fact of the matter is this, that Barbados suffered untold damage by virtue of its reputation when we allowed raw feces to leak into the ocean off this coast. And as if that was not bad enough, you would have thought then that sensible men holding responsibility for the cabinet of this country, lending direction to this country, would stand up and say, well, look, the problem here has to be treated scientifically and seriously. The World Health Organization or PAHO or whoever would have set out what are the levels of bacteria in the water to make it safe or unsafe. You would expect a minister to stand up and say, on the day in question when the signs were put down, it was unsafe because XYZ was the level of bacteria. However, with the effluxion and passage of time, it has changed, and now XYZ is the new level of bacteria. That is what I believe government should be about in Barbados. And that's why I want to talk to you tonight about the government, the governance of this country. What are you prepared to accept in the land of your birth? Because I never thought that I would be asked to accept that a long, red, lawless individual would plunge himself into the ocean. I mean, I know him long from Harrison College days, and we knew that he was full of pup. But I didn't think I would see him bathe in it. I didn't think I would live to hear that he ran down there and bathe in it. And for what purpose, comrades and friends? For what? I mean, this defies common sense. Do you believe that Richard Seeley believes that by running and plunging himself into the feces and raw excrement down there, that people in Great Britain would have noticed that a man who calls himself a minister went and decided to bathe in Jobby? And then, because he bathed in Jobby, they're going to pick up their wife who they love, their children who they adore, spend £10,000 to come to Barbados so they could jump in Jobby too. Now let us get real. And at this level of, y'all are making sport at this, but it's a serious thing. What is the Barbados that you are prepared to live in? Because that is what is now exported across the world as leadership in the land of your birth. That is what is now replacing Tom Adams and Eric Barr and Bree St. John and Owen Arthur and all the rest who held the office of leadership. That boy acts as a prime minister. You know that? He acts as a prime minister. And I want to say to you that what upsets me even more, even if it don't upset you, is that if a young man from over there in Bath Village, if a young man born to humble origins in Bath Village, not Sir Austin Seeley's aristocratic child, in fact he didn't behave like a child, he behaved like a piglet, but not Sir Austin Seeley's little aristocrat, if a young boy from over there in Harmony Hall or down the road in Bino Road Worthing, born to humble circumstance, was to go on that beach and drag up the sign and pull up the red flags signifying that the beach is dangerous, there would be indulged sitting down tonight. What is the Barbados that you are accepting? What are the standards that you are accepting, people? The National Conservation Commission is created by an act of Parliament. The National Conservation Commission has as its mandate in law the protection of the beaches of Barbados and the public safety. In exercise of its duty in law, the National Conservation Commission planted signs to warn people about the situation on that beach. And a wild boy drag up the people's sign, pull up the caution flags, and people have to accept that in Barbados he can go untouched. But if others had done it, they would be being punished all right now. And what is worse is that you accept this, and you have not yet raised your voice in indignation about the fact that he is answerable to a prime minister who must be equally lawless as well. Because the Prime Minister should have fired him immediately as he see that a man ran down, a member of his cabinet, ran down on the beach and pulled up the people's sign that warns about the public health and safety of the beach. But the Prime Minister can't tell Silly come back. Well, it's not the first time. Dennis Kelman took off all of his clothes that I could see in order to do an interview on Facebook about the quality of water in Barbados. He can stand up like I'm talking to you now and say this is the problem with water, as I say. He had to pull off all the clothes that you can see. And this is what we accept as the new standard. No, I'm serious, because this is the Barbados that you all have to decide whether you're prepared to live in. I say to you, that larger than that beach is also the issue of maintenance. Because if that plant was being maintained, it could not have come to this sorry pass. And if that plant was not being maintained, then ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you, have you paused to think about what else is not being maintained in Barbados and is likely to fall apart in a similar unseemly fashion, causing similar difficulties? That is why I say to you that the press in this country must not be complicit in foolishness. The press has a duty to ask questions, serious questions about where we are going. And I want also to say that you yourself must now start to ask serious questions about what you've been taking for granted. You have ministers about this place, public officials about this place, people walking the corridors of government about this place, who are living ostentatious lifestyles that nobody can explain. Lifestyles in the midst of the worst recession this country has seen. They are growing wealthier and demonstrating more and more accumulated wealth. And nobody asks any questions about it. A man who Ralph Thorne and I know well, that had interest in an entertainment house in Bridgetown. Not an entertainment house. And he can pay the rent. In fact, the court judgment against him suggests that it's $90,000 he had to pay a landlord. Couldn't pay. He ends up on the public purse. You are paying him now. And all of a sudden, he's in the realm of the luxury car for $300,000. Huh? All of a sudden, the lowdown on another fella, is that he too was running from landlords for many years. Now he is part of the BMW class. You have a standard of governance that means nothing to people with common sense. That a minister, and you accepted this, a minister wrote a letter to people in the government department that he has responsibility for. Do not attend any meetings held by Christopher Sinclair. I am not giving you permission to go to any meetings with the Minister of Finance. Now, good Christ, if you are working in government and you are sent to a meeting with another department of government and you don't go, who suffers? The people of Barbados suffer. But a minister was allowed to write that, and he still is a minister today. And you have accepted this. Nobody ain't gone in the office and sit down, in the car park and sit down and block it until when the Prime Minister revokes the appointment. Nobody in demand that the Nation and the Advocate and every other paper in Barbados stand up for what is right until the Prime Minister revoked the appointment. You accepted this because you have accepted that we are not in this together, but this belongs to the Democratic Labour Party. And I will not go there with you. It does not belong to the Democratic Labour Party. We are all in this together. Our neighbor stringers were buried here, man. And you have at Cahill for what may call pop kite men. Sign in without going to cabinet. Sign in an agreement to use a form of technology that has never been tried before on a coral island anywhere in this world. The certain outcome being that you and I and everybody else in our families could face a death by cancer. They signed it. Prime Minister pretended to know nothing about it and then was exposed to be in the know. And you have accepted this. This is your Barbados too. You have to stand up to correct this. This is an insult to your intelligence. And in the Bahamas, a man who was a minister did the same thing for the same kind of waste-to-energy plant. Do you know that? But the Prime Minister in the Bahamas fired him. The 4 men who did what they had to do in Barbados are still drawing your money today. Because you have not woken up to the reality that your voice matters in this country and that you have control. Of course they won't put it out. And that time will surely come. And I say to you as a Shadow Minister of Commerce in this country this evening, that I have watched 2 notices appear in public papers saying that Arawak cement plant has taken the cement produced in Barbados to Illinois and the United States to have it tested. Theirs and the cement produced by competitors, sold in Barbados, imported from Turkey and from Portugal. And that the results, according to them, is that their product is vastly stronger. And that the bags that the other people are using suggest that they have been weathered and exposed to the elements for a long time. And that the process of hydration, this is what the paper tell me. I am no engineer. Talk about a process of hydration taking place which may make the product less than desirable for certain types of construction activity. This was published. This came out as a public notice, not once but twice. And I have heard nothing from the Ministry of Commerce. Meanwhile, Barbadians around this place are exposed to buying the same product that a question mark has been placed over. Meanwhile, government departments have entered into contracts because there is a very close relationship between some people in the construction industry and government. I ain't gonna tell you, you know. Mark my words, you know, if you think about it. And government departments are using the same product. And nobody has said to this country whether or not this is a matter of concern and risk. But in other parts of the world, you and I know that that couldn't just happen so. And what boiled my blood is then when 2 days after the notice appeared on the Sunday, the Tuesday morning, I hear the Minister of Public Works. Oh, well, they got a lot of cement in Barbados now, and the prices should therefore come down. So I think we'll be using concrete roads. We'll be building concrete roads. Asphalt is no good. Now, how do now the people of this country are to be exposed to paying the price for that? When it important on the here, when it had a profit under the shed roof. So if anybody is to feel the fallout from under that shed roof, it can't be you. And as long as I am in public life in Barbados, it will not be you. Let me get that straight. And that is why I treasure the fact that this Barbados Labour Party has in people with conscience, the Cynthia Fordes of the Barbados Labour Party, the Trevor Prescotts, the George Payne, God bless him, people who've been wrong long and will frown on foolishness. That kind of nonsense could not have been uttered by a Barbados Labour Party cabinet minister. Could not have happened. But it is about consolidation of wealth. And here in Christchurch South, you understand consolidation of wealth very well. You felt the pain. It is down here that a man that comes from God knows where arrived in Barbados and was given a tax holiday for 40 years. 40, you pay your taxes every year. He used to get 40 years. And the same hotels like Coral Mist and Yellow Bird, Time Out in the Gap, and Bougainvillea, and all the rest of them. They have people leaving Edie Village and leaving Silver Sands, educated young people leaving Sergeant Village and making their way down to this coast to put this country's tourism product on their back, whether they are chefs, whether they're working in the rooms cleaning, whether they are food and beverage management. These people are the bulk, the brunt of our tourism product. And they are discriminated against because one man is supposed to come to Barbados and enjoy all the sweets and the fat, and other hoteliers struggling to maintain the staff component. It is not fair. And all the wealth consolidates in one corner. This is how the Democratic Labour Party sees an economy functioning. They engorge their pockets and use that salt. And it has to come to an end. And if the press in this country was prepared to stop allowing some of their members to prostitute themselves at an altar of Democratic Labour Party political expediency, they would be the ones to tell you, not I, that in the Turks and Caicos Islands, there is a criminal corruption case involving tens of millions of United States dollars passed to political operatives so that the same beneficiary of the sweets in Barbados would be in a position to enjoy sweets in the Turks and Caicos as well. And I ask you, have you paused to wonder if a man is capable of spending that kind of money to get what he wants in one island in the Caribbean, you feel he would do it in another island? To get a sweetheart deal in another island? You feel that he would, you feel, I ask you, if you understand that if there is a corrupt person in the corridors of power in Barbados, your silence, your implied acquiescence is the reason for that person to be able to walk the corridors of power in this country. Your voice needs to be heard. It is not only about Mayor Mottley. It is not only about Kerrie Symmonds. It is not only about Dale Marshall, William Duguid, Adrian Forde, and Wilfred and whoever else. We are in this together. This is your Barbados and mine. And accommodating them does not help you, because when you go to the bank, if I understand it correctly, and Clyde will correct me, your interest is now 0.25 of a percentage point. When they go to the bank, even before they get to interest, they are seeing far more than what a custom seeing before. But life is good. But my friends, I say this to you. The chairman has just given me 3 minutes to wrap up. And I know that a lot of people get cut, and it's only fair that I give away as soon as possible. But let me say to you, wrong may forever live on a throne. The truth may be placed on a scaffold. You know, a scaffold is a place where you hang a man. Truth could be on a scaffold. Wrong could be living on the throne. But in the dim and dark unknown, there stands a God who keeps watch above his own. A day will dawn in this country when the hope that springs eternal in your breast will be responded to. An opportunity will present itself for you and your friends and your family to express your voice in overwhelming numbers and demonstrate that this which you've been asked to endure is not what you signed on for. When that day comes, make sure you are there. This country needs you. It is not about me. It is about you and me and all of we. Good night. God bless.
Give him a better round of applause than that. You see the depth and the breadth of talent that we have in the Barbados Labour Party team. We are focused and ready to take over the reins of government in this country whenever that date is called. Ladies and gentlemen, I have another video for you. And I want the technical people to cue the White Hill video. Cue the video.
Sort of advertise the problems here that we are facing in White Hill. I think that White Hill epitomizes the policy of this government in victimizing constituencies, or rather districts, that have not voted for the Democratic Labour Party. And I think the 22nd of November, my girl is bringing me to see you. Right? This, you know, me, Mottley. There's Miss Mottley. She's. Listen, we will be tackling this road the first thing when she becomes Prime Minister. All right? First priority.
That was the answer.
I know it.
It's Glenn Clark.
Those are people focused and ready, getting out there in the community. Where you don't see Frandel doing that. You don't see none of them doing that. But the Barbados Labour Party is taking the people, taking the fight to the community, because we need to hear your concerns so we can represent the people of Barbados. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring another friend of mine to this microphone. He currently represents the constituency of St. Joseph, and he will continue to do that for the Barbados Labour Party. My friend and yours, Mr. Dale Marshall.
Good night, everybody. Somebody say getting big? Oh, God, Sainty, that's not true, right? Oh, getting grey. Well, I think I have a lot to be grey about. I think every Bajan today has a lot to be grey about. So I have come to Top Rock, not just in support of the candidacy of a brilliant team of new BLP candidates. William Duguid is renewed, so I think we can call him new again. But I've also come here because the Barbados that we used to know, the Barbados that we used to love, is fading fast. And every day I ask myself, how much longer? And I try to answer by saying not much longer. How much longer? Not much longer. How much longer will the people of our country have to stand by and endure the daily antics of a bunch of clowns who masquerade as a government? And I say not much longer. You know, I remember well the time when Barbadians were proud to be Bajans, when our country was not the laughing stock of the region or the developing world. I remember well when I would travel all over the world and hear people talk about the Barbados model, because in those days, Barbados was something that people wanted to be like. It is not so long ago that this country had the benefit of good stewardship and of proper leadership. But you and I have had to stand up. And when I say you and I, I'm not talking about the BLP family. I am sure that there are some BLP people here. But this meeting is not about preaching to the converted. This meeting is a meeting to allow us to reach out to those who may still have some doubts. Reach out to those who may not be sure what they are going to do when the next election comes. And don't tell me that Christmas time is not a time to have a political meeting. Because any day that the Barbados Labour Party seizes the opportunity to educate Bajans, it is a good day. We have stood by, or we have been forced to stand by, and watch 16 men and women destroy a country of 280,000 people. I do not know where else in the world that is happening. 16 men and women have brought our country to its knees and brought Barbadians to a place of shame. If you had any doubt, and you know this, from 2008, they were ushered in on a wave. And they were singing the praises of Sweet Davy and Brilliant Chris Sinclair and this and the next thing and the third thing. But from 2008, you think the only slippage was in the Scotland district? From 2008, our country started to slip. And we are now in a shameful place. I love listening to Kerrie Symmonds speak, but I am not going to talk about those things. Suffice it to say, though, that any time the government can close a beach and a minister can go and open it back up, then there's something wrong. And I speak to you as an individual who has served in our cabinet. And I know that when decisions are made on the behalf of a cabinet doesn't just go and decide, man, you do foolishness, so I change in this. There's a process. And perhaps that is a good place that I could begin to talk about over the next few minutes that I have with you. You will have seen over the last few days a lot of attention being paid to the fact that 3 government ministers have refused to appear before the Public Accounts Committee. They have said that this is a witch hunt by Miss Mottley. Well, you know, the thing about a witch hunt is that you must have witches. But this is not about a witch hunt. This is about accountability. And I want to carry you back to 2008 when one of their campaign promises was that there would be a new accountability and transparency in our country. Now, we took those things for granted when we were in government, but they wanted to put it into pretty words. We accepted that we had to have accountability, but they decided to put it in the manifesto and promise that there would be a new accountability. And that every turn when an opportunity arose for them to stand tall and by their conduct manifest the word of their own manifesto, they run and hide. Now, it is against the rules of Parliament for me to tell you what is said and done in the Public Accounts Committee. So I cannot tell you about the many things that we have discovered that have brought us to tears. I can't tell you, but I can tell you that in our judgment we felt that the time had come when the 3 ministers responsible for discharging those 2 housing projects, 2 ministers of housing and a minister of finance, who act in your name and mine and who spend your money and mine, should come to the Public Accounts Committee and say to that committee, this is the justification I had for making my decision. I was in part responsible for the construction of the prison. And if I were summoned to appear before any committee, I would not only consider it my obligation, I would consider it an honor to stand up and defend every single decision that I made every single day while that prison at Dawes was being built. That is what accountability is. But we have a population now that is seeing before their very eyes 3 government ministers who are saying to the institution of Parliament that you cannot touch me. You cannot touch me. Now, you know, as Attorney General, a former Attorney General and a shadow for the Law and Order portfolio, it does not cause me too much brain power to figure out why law and order is going to hell in our country. It doesn't take too much to figure it out. Because when 3 ministers, and that is only in the last few weeks, because I am still smarting from the conduct of a minister who brandished a firearm at me, and up to now has not appeared before the courts, up to now has not been sanctioned by Parliament. So this is not new. But yet still we want to savage our young people for the decline in law and order, when our ministers of government, by refusing to hold themselves accountable for the public trust and to the public trust, they refuse to set a proper example. Now that causes me concern. That causes me concern. It is unseemly for them to rely on legal technicalities to escape appearing before the Public Accounts Committee. The Public Accounts Committee is not made of savages. If they feel that they have to bring their lawyer, bring their lawyer. But we want to ask some simple questions. We want to ask questions that the Auditor General has asked. Now, when you have government ministers who feel that they are not accountable to the people, then what that means is that as far as they're concerned, they can do as they like. And it carries me back to the days of the early 90s when a prime minister on their side said what? You could like it or you could lump it. And so these 3 ministers now, a bareback minister, Kerrie Symmonds, he took off his clothes. I only saw from the chest up. You had him. You had a man named Michael Lashley, well known. I'm not going to even go into details about him. And the Minister of Finance. But you know, the problem is, and Kerrie averted to it when he talked about David Eswick writing a letter saying, don't meet with the Minister of Finance. I remember Owen Alpha called them a bunch of wild boys. And all hell broke loose. How he could say that. But every word he said about them was true. Every word was true. And so you and I have to endure another 1 month, another 2 months, another 3 months, perhaps another 15 months until Fronda Stewart calls an election. We have to endure a don't care-ish attitude from people who are elected to be servants of the people. But at this point in time, they do what they please. A Minister of Finance could agree that the Barbados Water Authority could spend over $60 million on a new headquarters building while people in my constituency did not get a drop of water for 10 months. And they could only agree to do that because as far as they're concerned, the people in St. Joseph don't matter. And the people in St. Thomas don't matter. And St. Andrew and St. Peter, parts of St. James, St. Philip, 1/5 of Barbados did not matter enough. And so when they had to make a decision about spending $60 million on a new building or providing water for our citizens, as far as they were concerned, the new building was more important. It suits the Democratic Labour Party, and you know what, with that water thing, people ask about the power of an opposition. I am proud to be part of a political party that was willing to stand up beside me in St. Joseph and help to agitate for a quick solution to the water problem. It took the Barbados Labour Party to get David Eswick and the Water Authority up off of their backsides to deal with the situation. I will remember last December, the CEO or the General Manager of Water Authority said, well, it is global warming. It is this. It is that. Every single reason under the book why we could not get water. Parts of rural Barbados are slipping away. You saw it on the video of White Hill. You know, it is only when you have to live in these conditions that you really understand it. In a way, I envy the people who live in Christchurch. Because for the most part, they don't have no water outages. No. You do not know what it feels like not to have had water since Christmas Eve last year. And it's almost Christmas Eve again. With due respect to you, you don't know what it's like. You don't know what slippage is like. Our road infrastructure in St. Joseph and other parts of rural Barbados is disappearing. Disappearing. And the government just does not care. We've said that it seems as though they're doing these things because we are BLP constituencies. I don't know if that is true. I don't know if that is true. But, you know, we had some stalwarts in our party that used to talk about two Barbadoses, Louis Tull and Sir Richard Cheltenham, and it has come to pass. We now have two Barbadoses, a Barbados for the rich and a Barbados for the needy, a Barbados for the haves and the have-nots, a Barbados for the sufferers and a Barbados for those who are prospering. When we were last in government, we promised to create 30,000 jobs. We did not say we were going to create 30,000 jobs for our Barbados Labour Party supporters. We were going to create, and we did create, 30,000 jobs for all Barbadians. All Barbadians. Because as far as we were concerned, Barbados is only a country if we can all stand as one. But now our country is divided between the haves and the have-nots. But the Barbados Labour Party is here to bring well, I don't want to say salvation because we can't bring salvation in the body, but we can bring solutions to this problem. Now, we've heard all the talk about a party that is disunited. And it suits the Democratic Labour Party to spread all kinds of vicious rumors, tell people that we are not united, that we can't govern. But every single step that we take as a political party, every single step is a step taken in unity. Every step that we take is a step that we take together. Because as far as we are concerned, Barbados is for all of us. Now, I want you to consider just a few things before I wrap up. In our country, there is virtually nothing that works anymore. How is it acceptable that in the year 2016, a schoolboy who has to go home and do homework has to wait for 5 hours for a bus? How is that acceptable? How is that acceptable that thousands of hard-working Barbadians, instead of being able to make their way home, get a little rest, and start on another day, are held captive in a bus stand? And a government that does not seem to understand what that does to the health, to the mental health, to the physical health, to the well-being of families. This is 2016. Nobody should be waiting 1 hour for a bus, far less 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. But the Democratic Labour Party, a party that is full of ordinariness. There's nothing about the Democratic Labour Party, a party that is filled with ordinariness. The Democratic Labour Party, a party that does not excel at anything except imposing hardship, continues to stand up every day and drag our country greater and greater into ruin. I'm not an economist, but the economists tell me that Barbados is the only country in the world that is still talking about a recession. I understand that all the other countries and all the other leaders, they've done talk about recession ever since. but as an excuse. It is the only crutch that Chris Sinkler has that he can hold on to. That's all he has to hold on to. The recession, the recession, the recession. But in this recession, they can spend $7 or $8 or $9 or $10 million on a wasteful, stupid exercise to celebrate 50 years of independence. I wonder what they will do for our 51st. You know, I said that I was not going to be part of the government celebration. I am almost an independence baby. I value our independence. But I felt that as a government, we should be demonstrating that the people as a body was our priority. How do you celebrate 50 years of independence and 5 hours waiting on a bus? How do you get that work? How do you celebrate 50 years of independence but living in White Hill? How do you celebrate 50 years of independence but still have to go to the very standpipe that your grandparents went to 50 years before? But the government felt it was all right to divert $7 million from buying bandages and toilet paper and aspirin and alcohol at the QEH and spend it on fireworks and Rihanna. Because as far as they're concerned, it's just a net effect. Don't go too far back. You will remember that just after the election in 2008, every time the government had out a house key, it was a fact. Whenever they opened a road, it was a fact. Dollars after dollars spent on caterers and big drinking. Fact, fact, fact. And 8 years later, into an administration, our country is suffering, but all that the Democrat Labour Party can still see is fact, fact, fact. You believe that the Minister of Tourism went into the sea because he wanted to prove the water was clean. I suspect he went into the sea because he had a big hangover after all of the fetting. I worry about the Barbados that is being created today. It is a Barbados that unfortunately is beset by lawlessness. The criminal element in our country is holding us to ransom. We are apart at the seams. It is not serving the needs of the people. It is not serving the needs of the business community. I have to ask myself, what do the Democrat Labour Party ministers go to work for every Monday morning? I know they get a paycheck at the end of every month. They may get an envelope here or there. What are they going to work for every day? I have been part of a government that understood that our only mission was to serve the people. Owen Arthur used to say we were elected to stop poor people from being poor. The Democrat Labour Party has been elected and has promptly made poor people poorer. And the ones who had before now don't have. What a difference. And it did not take 50 years to do it. Our country has been brought to its knees in only 8. But I want to tell you that after the next election, the Barbados Labour, well, the people in St. George think out water to chase it with. Somebody said they can't buy a rum. We can't even chase with the water. I want to tell you, I want to promise you, that from day one after the next election, whenever it is called, the Barbados Labour Party as the new government will be going to work and rolling up our shirt sleeves and straining our every muscle into improving the lives of Barbadians. We have a government that is concentrating on big houses, fast cars, the latest gadgets, the latest flat screen TV. It is all about them, but it shouldn't surprise you because David Thompson talked about the fatted calf. So it shouldn't surprise you that that is their mentality. But when I ask you the question, how long? The answer has to be not much longer. Because the sure thing is this: an election must come. It must come. They could do all the dog dancing that they want. They can do all the hiding, all the avoiding. They can decide that they're not coming before the Public Accounts Committee, but an election must come. And if you are too big to come before the Public Accounts Committee, I hope to God that you carry home the ministry files when you leave, because the paperwork is still going to be there. And we will be looking into it then. A man named David Thompson said that when they became the government, they were going to do a forensic audit on all the Barbados Labour Party MPs because we were corrupt. We all had bank accounts in the United States, on and on and on. Every single night, they painted the Barbados Labour Party parliamentarians as a bunch of crooks. But I want them to remember Errol Barra's mirror image, because when they look in the mirror, they will see who the real... I am a lawyer, so I don't want to represent myself in a lawsuit. I don't want to represent myself in a lawsuit. Do not despair. We know what it is to bring a country from the bottom and lift it up to the top. We did it for 14 years. We created the 30,000 jobs. We made sure that our university students, our young men and women, that they can meet their dreams, because every year we paid university their due. We made sure that the hospital had what it needed. We made sure the polyclinics had what they needed. We made sure that we took care of every single Barbadian, whether you were a B or a D. I was in a certain government department. I'm going to finish just now, William. I was in a certain government department 2 days ago. And it's easy to make up these stories, but this one is true. 3 individuals called me over, and I went over as a polite marshal boy from St. George, and I wasn't dressed in a suit nor nothing. And they proceeded to tell me how they voted for the Democratic Labour Party last election. But never again. Never again. And I walked away from that government department with a sense of hope. Because the Democratic Labour Party betrayed even their own supporters. And when you turn your back on your own, you are the worst kind of villain. So I want you to take hope. I want you to take hope. And be sure that the fortune of Barbados is going to improve. How long? Not much longer. He can run. They can't hide. An election day is constitutionally due. And when that day comes, it will sweep Chris Sinclair, David Eswick, Michael Ash, it will sweep all of them out of government and install the only proper government that this country has known. And you will then have a reason to celebrate. Good night and God bless.
Give him another round of applause. The breadth of the team for the Barbados Labour Party. Well, you know, it's ironic, and what just dawned on me, the same 3 ministers that have declined to attend the Public Accounts Committee, you know, they're the 3 same don't blame me ministers. Whenever anything happened in the ministry, don't blame me. It ain't my fault. Not me. Whenever anything, don't blame me. The same don't blame ministers. But I had one other don't blame me minister too, from this constituency right here. And he is currently the Minister of Health. And if I were to tell you that after the government of this country spent $8 million of your money to completely rewire and improve the electrical services at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, you know, the other day, The electricity was out at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital for 5 hours. Not 2 hours, not 4 hours, 5 hours. No standby generator. No electricity to run absolutely essential equipment to keep people alive and to diagnose people. You know, all of the blood in the blood bank spoil. Every single liter of blood had to be thrown away because it cannot stay unrefrigerated for 5 hours. You know, they had to transport patients who were on life support to the BDF. There's serious things that we have to talk about in this country. We cannot continue to let the mismanagement of this country go on. It has to stop, and you, the people of Barbados, have the power in your hands. You know, my mother always used to tell me, help is at the bottom of your own 2 hands. And your hands will have to bring that help to this country. We can only put the case to you, the people of Barbados. But it's you, the people of Barbados, that have to do the work when that time comes. You know, they always tell us that Bajans have short memories. But the people that had to be transported from the QEH to the BDF, they can't have short memories. The people that are having to pay more and more in taxes every year, when they haven't had a raise for 8 years, they are not the people that could have short memories. The people that now have to pull their pockets and pay for their children to attend the University of the West Indies, when for years that was something free that everybody could aspire to. Those people could not have short memories. The people of this country that have to endure the potholes every 6 feet, mashing up the car constantly, those people could not have short memories. The people that have to spend hours in the bus stand, waiting for a bus and hoping and praying when the bus get there, it ain't full. And then you gotta wait for the next one another hour or 2. Those people could not have short memories. So the people of Barbados need to remember the mismanagement that these people have placed on your backs. And you know, whenever they had a problem to fix, the people had to bear the burden. Fix the hospital, more taxes. They need money, increase the VAT. And now you know what they're doing. Printing money left, right, and center. Not officially printing money, but writing off debt. But if that was a simple matter, well, every time that they wanted something, they should have just gone and print money. They shouldn't have had no loans at all. Shouldn't have had no loans at all. They shouldn't have borrowed nothing because it was simple to go and print money. But we know that printing money is a last resort for a government because it dilutes the strength of your currency. And they have now reached the position of last resort because they have decided to print money to finance the deficit of their programs in this country. And what does that do? Dilute your money. Makes less foreign currency available. And this is why we have the pressure of foreign currency reserves in Barbados. This is why you have to go and apply when you want to bring some t-shirts in for just 20,000 US dollars. You got to apply and wait for them to accumulate the money to get approval. You can't go to the bank and tell them I want 50, 70, 80,000 US dollars like you could under the Barbados Labour Party administration. You can't do it no more because they have put too much pressure on the foreign exchange and we do not have the reserves that we used to have. So they have taken this country far below where we should be today. But we have a lady. We have a lady with a vision. We have a lady who is going to come to you today and speak to you tonight. We have a lady by the name of Mia Amor Mottley. And with your help, and with your work, and with your dedication, so we will make sure that Mia Amor Mottley will be the first female Prime Minister in the history of this country. Mia, come to the platform.
Come here. Come to the platform. Your people want you now. Even if I fall, I'm going to get back up. That is life. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. It is good to be here, but I didn't expect to be here as we begin to celebrate the Christmas season. That is the truth. But in life, you have to do what you have to do. And I am conscious tonight that there are some who are at Ilara Court with carols by candlelight, and there are some who are at the David Thompson finals playing football. And it only serves to remind me that it is now 6 years that Thompson has passed to somewhere else. And in those 6 years, rather than seeing the opportunity to be able to build up this country, we have a prime minister who has carried us down further and further and further. And when I met many of you at the annual conference last month before, I asked you to remember the words of Erskine Sandiford as we were coming up to celebrate our 50th anniversary. How did we get here? And you know, even as I spent time just now waiting and hearing Dale Marshall, Dale, you need a long day all the time because you bat your hand like a batsman that was in for 300 today. And Kerrie, there is no finer platform speaker in Barbados than Kerrie Symmonds. Listening to Kerrie Symmonds on a platform is like watching Brian Lara on a cricket field. And I'm going to come to the others in Christchurch especially later. But I wanted you to recognize that I walked around that building with Clyde. And I'll come to it because some of you can walk it later at the end of this meeting. And the smells started to give me a headache. Living in Barbados. And every day this week, we have seen headline after headline after headline after headline jolt us into Sandiford's question. How did we get here? Whether it is the industrial relations, the fact that people had to wait at the airport to get in, coming in for independence, and all of a sudden we hear the Prime Minister meets and agrees to pay the head of the union, Akani, that which he was fighting for all along. But he couldn't meet 3-4 weeks ago. But the people had to go through that pain in the airport. And Barbados' name became smeared. We had people in this country lining up for buses for 4, 5, and 6 hours this week. All because the transport board is down to less than 80 buses. We had the horror of the dialysis unit not being able to deliver treatment to people. And this is not a laughing matter because these very same people, if they can't get the liquids off of their body, their life is at risk. And of course, we had the sewage. There is no one from this government who has taken any of these problems seriously in this country. And there has been no determination to solve any of them. Their only interest is to douse some water upon the flames so that the flames go down. But the fire is still there. The problems still remain because their interest, my friends, is about political optics and nothing more. But our interest is also about optics. The optics of sewage in the streets of Barbados. The optics of people driving along, not intending to hurt a passenger, a pedestrian, but with all the rain, the car goes through. It's bad enough that they splatter up people, but then the person finds out that they've been splattered with sewage. What kind of country are we living in today? And you know, when we came to Worthing this week, the residents, the business owners, and Kerrie spoke to you about the plight of the business owners. When you have a man of the character and caliber and age of M.E.R. Bourne, 84 years old, and he says he has never seen it like this. And he describes the fish that died in the pond by Big B. And what do we have from a government? A complete ignoring, wanting to rewrite what they saw. TripAdvisor. And you know what hurts me? That the only time they saw it fit to respond was when the news of TripAdvisor and the tourists came on that website. Because it didn't have to be so. When they closed the beach on Saturday at Worthing, they botched that up too. Because if you close a beach, you would expect signs to go up, warning people. You know, when the signs went up, the beach was closed about midday Saturday. Ask Kerrie. The signs went up when we got to Worthing Beach, when they heard we were coming at 4:30 on Monday afternoon. 48 hours later, running the risk of people going into that water. And what do you have? Anybody who goes overseas don't listen to the radio or TV if you're on vacation regular. They don't. And those signs are to protect people. But instead, what do we get when we go up there? Parliament met twice this week. Not one day did the Prime Minister address the people of this country and explain what his government would do to put in place to solve this problem. What we had instead was Thursday morning before Cabinet. 2 men turn up. They clearly had watched Dennis Kelman's video on Facebook because they followed Dennis Kelman's abracadabra example. Kelly, bareback, and with a gold chain in a bathroom. Dale says to the people of St. Joseph and St. Peter and St. Lucy, watch this. I can drink this clear water. Abracadabra, matter fix. So Richard Seeley and John Boyce, wanting to get in on the abracadabra moment, said, watch this. Now, I ain't see them going in the sea. Kerrie, I ain't see them swim. I see 2 men, one in a brand name t-shirt and brand name shades, posing. An act of vandalism on the beach, pulling up a sign that he didn't put up. And what does he expect? Look at us. We are here. This is safe. Abracadabra, matter fix. But you see, Seeley's abracadabra was only bought for 24 hours. Because by the next night, in Big B car park, sewage was coming up again. By the Friday morning, Wilfred Abrams will show you the photographs that were sent to him with the sea brown again. And therefore, if you are a serious country and a serious government, these abracadabra moments of political optics cannot be part and parcel of how this country is to be governed. But I want you to listen to me very carefully, because you know I didn't come here without wanting to talk to you and talk to the people of this country. Because 1 year ago, and thank you for your comments, Kerrie, at Adrian Forde's nomination, I warned the Prime Minister about the non-functioning of the South Coast sewage plant. And I told the Prime Minister then that I was not going to get into the details of it, but that he had, as a matter of urgency, to intervene, because I do not assume that a Prime Minister knows everything that is going on in a government, even though he should. The Prime Minister made his mock sport at me. Well, my back broad. My back broad. But 14 months later, what do we have? And it didn't start, John Boyce, with the rainfall on the 29th of November. I have news stories here, and you all can go back and check them yourself. Full of news stories. From as early as the 4th of November, the Nation newspaper was taking comments from Sir Alan Fields and others about sewage being seen all along the South Coast. They were ignored. We have stories the following week. They were ignored. There was no deluge of rain at that point. And for those like Peter Jilks, whose only privilege in life is to climb up chocolate channels, it wasn't no storm water or brackish water. I want to speak to Dr. Mwanza too, because for Dr. Mwanza to come and say, nobody didn't ask him whose fault it was. Nobody didn't ask him who put the hands in the cookie jar. We will come to who put the hands in the cookie jar. But what they asked him was for relief. They wanted relief. And instead, the social partners and others were told by John Boyce and John Mwanza that these are leaves from the Graham Hall swamp breaking into the water, and the tannin of the leaves make the water brown. Well, I don't ever speak without the facts. And I simply have to ask John Boyce, what does his instrument give him responsibility for, if not the Ministry of Health? And I want him to go in the office tomorrow and ask them for the memorandum by Patricia Innes, a lady who ran against me twice. And I must tell you, she may be no politician, but she clearly is a better technician than politician. And in fairness, I will say she has discharged her duty. She really has. On May 11th, 2015, Patricia Innes writes these words, that on May 11th, 2015, a letter from the Ministry of Health to the Barbados Water Authority stated that sewage was contaminating the Graham Hall swamp. John Boyce's own ministry stated that the sewage was contaminating the swamp. But you now, for political purposes, will want to come and make people feel that they're foolish. Richard Seeley said that the beach should not have been closed. That's what he said on the beach. But I want Richard Seeley to tell the country what the public health test showed on a Monday last week with respect to the water that was sampled, and whether the test for the water closest to the sluice gate could have been read or if it was off the charts. Now, let us get real. Sun as seawater will clean things. We know that. But do not try to fool people and make people look like idiots. Because if I were to say to you here tonight, And when I mentioned this to Frondel last year, the Prime Minister, in October 2015, I told him what Pattinus had said in her letter, and she said that 90% of the sewage entering the plant is now being diverted from the influent pumps to the effluent. In other words, instead of going into the inflow pumps, into the plant, they're going straight to the outflow pumps into the water. Not necessarily the canal by Worthing, but the outflow pipes that we have out by Needham's Point. And I need to break this down for you for 2 minutes. The South Coast plant is a primary treatment plant. It is intended simply to separate the solids from the liquids. And when you take out the solids, the toilet paper, the garbage, the sanitary products for women, all them kinds of things, you're supposed to bag it and they carry them up to Spencer's plantation in Christchurch. If I were to tell you the rest of the liquid is deodorized in the plant, at the lift stations along the way, so people don't smell like what we're smelling behind there, and it goes into an outflow pipe that goes 1 to 2 kilometers out to sea, 150 feet down, and you have at Needham's Point 18 diffusers. In other words, 18 points which the water along that pipeline is put into the ocean so that there is no concentration of the effluent in any one place. Would you believe that your government has presided over a situation where next month, January 2017, will mark 3 full years that the South Coast Sewage Treatment Plant has not worked? That plant has not worked at all for 3 years. And what has been happening is that the sewage is coming into the pipes, going into the in-well, the influent well. They have another pump, not in the plant, but a pump that pumps everything into the effluent well, and everything then goes down the pipes to go in the sea. So what has happened? It is too sad. You have 18 diffusers. 10 of the diffusers in the water fully blocked. 6 of the diffusers partially blocked. And only 2 are functioning. And Bridgetown Sewage Plant, the diffusers there too, the 16, only 2 of the 16 are functioning for the Bridgetown Sewage Treatment Plant. This government has to do better by its people than this. And you know, this has more to do with poor choices, as Ryan Straughn told you. Because this government was given a chance. I want you to listen carefully. In July of 2014, 6 months after the sewage treatment plant stopped working, they had a proposal from the Chinese government, indicative terms and conditions, first given on the 24th of July to the Barbados Water Authority from the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, followed up by the final term sheet, the 6th of August 2014, valid for 12 months, valid until the 6th of August 2015. One of the biggest banks in China to lend them almost $200 and something million, 85% of the cost for the building of a West Coast sewage plant, a Bridgetown upgrade, and a South Coast sewage treatment upgrade for the plant here. But you know, What happened? What happened? Serenader, our friend, would say that there was not enough steel in there. In my case, I would say no, Seri. There was not enough fat in there. Because the government of Barbados had to make choices between building Sam Lord's Castle, a tourism investment that ought to be done by the private sector, because if the numbers are good, as they should be for a hotel, the private sector should be prepared to invest in Sam Lord's Castle. And the second project was jet bridges. But you see, there was not enough fat in there. And what has happened to us is that the principle of smart borrowing, as Clyde would tell you, where you borrow for serious social infrastructural projects that can come to affect from your public health to your competitiveness as a nation, was put on the back burner. Do you know that the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China has never received a response from the Ministry of Finance in relation to that term sheet for the sewage treatment plants of Barbados? Do you understand that our Ministry of Finance did not respond? And where we find ourselves 2.5 years later, after the offer at concessional funding, 3.5% above LIBOR, in other words, 4% money, is that instead you went and built one hotel but put the whole tourism industry at risk in this country. You went and built one hotel, you intend to build a hotel, because all Sam Lords has had is 2 groundbreakings and some buildings knocked down. And you put instead the public health and the well-being of the citizens of this country at risk. It is a shame, it is a scandal, and we must deal with it. But it doesn't stop there. Ask yourself why you smell. The people in Harmony Hall and the people in Worthing Beach, Ms. Burt, others have been complaining about these smells for a while. That rotten egg smell, Jerome, William, Adrian will tell you, is hydrogen sulfide. And hydrogen sulfide, if concentrated in a closed area, is not good for people. It means that the workers at that treatment plant need to be protected. And I ask this government, in the last 3 years that this treatment plant has not worked, what have you done to protect the workers at the South Coast Sewage Treatment Plant? What have you done to protect the residents in Harmony Hall? This is a serious situation in this country. And when we look at what is broken, almost every possible thing in that plant is broken. The pumps are broken. The odor control units, not just in the plant, but in the lift stations along the South Coast, are not working. The non-return valves, which is supposed to stop the backflow of sewage, is not working. Pumps and pumping stations like River Road, not working. I told you just now about the diffusers, and I am told that there was a man called Hannah who used to dive and clean those diffusers, and the man died 7 years ago. Who has been maintaining those diffusers since then? Who? And coral doesn't only grow, Kerrie, you're a diver. Coral doesn't only grow in one direction. So when you say that the diffusers are blocked, is the coral blocking it? And therefore it is no wonder that the Friday before independence, by the garrison, sewage start coming out there because water will find the weakest points through which to extract itself, whether it is the manholes, whether it is the canals, or the one there by the sluice gate. But they need to also report to the people, not just about the South Coast sewage treatment plant, but about the Bridgetown sewage treatment plant. Many of you may not remember there was a fire in the Bridgetown sewage treatment plant in 2013. You remember? And a number of things stopped working, including the chloropat unit. What is that? 'Cause I really didn't do science at school for too long. I had to go and have people advise me. And that is why I know that there's a worthlessness on the part of these ministers, because nobody expects them to be experts, but we expect them to be advised. And I was prepared to be advised locally and internationally on what is required to put this country on a stable path in terms of our public health. That chloropat unit uses electrolysis to extract chlorine from seawater so that you can literally, if it is working well, reduce the fecal coliforms. Kerrie would have another word for it that he used many times in his speech tonight, beginning with J. But it helps reduce that content in the water. And I say to you tonight, what is it that must now be required? Because when I first came here and called this meeting, it was only to talk about sewage. But I have to speak to you on another matter tonight that has now come to the fore. So forgive me if I move through quickly. And I want to say the meeting to which we have been invited, the town hall meeting of residents and business people on Tuesday, we will be attending because they deserve the facts. These are the people whose livelihood is at risk. These are the people whose health is at risk. And I say to you tonight that this problem has to be fixed. We accept that there must be an emergency patching first, and then the long-term issue which this government ignored. Whether you choose the Chinese to finance it or whoever else, we are only on this earth for a certain period of time given by the Lord. But this island is to exist for other generations. And we cannot be so wicked as a generation to believe that when it was our turn to take care of it, that we ignored it. I brought a resolution in 2008 or 9 on the Graham Hall swamp, asking the government when it was closing it down. It was laid in Parliament. Their memory's short, but my memory is short. Asking the government to hold it and to acquire it because it is the only remaining wetland of its type. It is the place where 84 birds, different types of birds, come. And this government, Dennis Lowe, received a letter from Peter Allard, the owner of that swamp, in 2009. And he was Minister of Environment, Minister of Water, and Minister of Drainage. He had all three. All three. And we end up in a situation where this government can ignore a treatment plant that needed a few $1 million to fix and buy the equipment. Probably less than what they spent on independence. Certainly less than what they spent on the grotto that remains closed up for 2 years and 2 months at $28 million with the tires blowing. And this government could ignore the emergency fix. And you tell me they find money for what they want to. That something major is coming. I ask you to meet me in Heroes Square within 48 hours of them telling you what they tell you. Because it is not for you to be ignored. Power comes from the people. And the people always have more power than the people in power. And I say to you that no men who put us in this ditch can get me out of it. No man who prescribed the wrong medication can give me now the assurance that they can suddenly make me well. And I say to you tonight that the only decision can be the decision of the people. And let us be real. If the people say that they want them again, I will be disappointed, but we will respect it. But what must never, in the name of Grantley Herbert Adams, what must never, in the name of Aaron Walton Barrow, be done in this country is to take for granted the mandate of the people. Because this Democratic Labour Party got no mandate in 2013. They lied to the people. They robbed an election. And I say to you that if the fate that is theirs has now hit them, come to the people and tell the people what you are doing or what you have done in their name. And I hope that those who have propped up this administration, this government, and who have done so out of greed and singular self-interest, I hope that they understand that whatever it is hits all of us at the same time. And that it will splash like the sewage on all of us. Because when the rain falls, it falls both on the unjust and the just. When the rain falls, it falls both on the rich and the poor. When the rain falls, it falls on all classes and all colors and all genders. So, all of us, and Kerrie said it tonight, all of us are in this together. And we have reached a point in this country now where this government can no longer act in our name without telling us what they are doing in our name. I have brought to you at Top Rock tonight the Christchurch team, a team in which I am well pleased. But there are 5 young men, William Duguid, who stands back as a Trojan, who has already proven himself to the people of Christchurch West as to what he does for them, how he does good, do good, and good shall attend you. I introduce tonight a star, a young boy who warms your heart, a young boy who people just love, and his name is Adrian Forde, my brother. You will be like Churchill to little Hitler. You will destroy him too. And we brought Wilfred Abrams, who is as straight as an arrow, who is as honest as it is possible for a man to be. And the contrast between Wilfred Abrams and Dennis Lowe is as stark as black to white. And I give him credit for his stickability. He lost and he went back in. Because his interest is you, the people of Christchurch East. And I brought to you a young man in the form of Ryan Straughn. And yes, Ryan was right. Adrian was right too. Adrian, I had to go to St. Andrew. I persuaded Adrian for 3-4 years, but women can beg hard too. Ryan Straughn is one of the finest young minds, a man of 40 years old. Younger than me and Clyde. And Ryan Straughn has shown, even without being affiliated to a political party, what was going on in this country before he ever came near the Labour Party. And he told you tonight he could either stand by and be right, or get involved and do right. Thank you for getting involved and doing right, Ryan. And then, of course, my good friend Ralph Thorne, who is a Queen's Counsel, whose word I will trust any day over Hal Gollop's. The truth is that Ralph has an add stature to this Christchurch team and can fill the shoes of Sir Harold Bernard St. John and Dr. Jerome Walker in a way in which I am well pleased. And he will not spend every day at a golf club playing golf instead of going to work at a ministry. So, ladies and gentlemen, my message to you tonight is to gird your loins. I have a team of 29 others with integrity. The chairman of the party has had to travel on behalf of the party tonight, and he's asked me to extend the best Christmas wishes to you on his behalf. This team is supported by a family with over 200 years of experience with people like Johnny Cheltenham and Billy Miller and Henry Forde and others, Liz Thompson and Reggie Farley and Erskine Griffith and Anthony Wood, and you know them all. Because we take our job seriously. And we understand that when you see strange things coming in the coming weeks, strange things in the coming days and weeks, you can do it and face it, comforted in the knowledge that the Barbados Labour Party will bring hope to this country and will restore this country to a country that can punch above its weight again. That the Barbados Labour Party can restore this country to the glory where it can be a leader among equals. And I say to you, have as good a Christmas as it is possible to have under these men in this government. But prepare for 2017, because 2017 will mean that the countdown to your worst nightmare being over and the countdown to your best tomorrow is at hand, because it shall be 1 year and 1 year only thereafter. We need you in this fight. Get some rest at Christmas. Merry Christmas, and have a wonderful New Year working with us. Have strength, faith, and whole strain in 2017. Good night, and God bless.